Good morning, DJ and PK. It's 97.5 The Zone. Welcome in on a Monday morning. Another weekend of sports in the books. The Las Vegas Golden Knights are out of the Stanley Cup playoffs, eliminated by Dallas. I think we got a lot of Knights fans here. We got a lot of Avalanche fans here. Obviously, the new team here, whatever its name is going to have a bunch of fans. I don't know how much will pull from those two fan bases, but for Vegas, the offseason is here. And now Dallas will try to eliminate another regional team. They got Colorado coming up. NBA playoffs, we'll get to them coming up in the next segment. But Donovan Mitchell, big game. Cavaliers advance. They haven't won a playoff series without LeBron James since 1993. So it's been a while, but they broke through. And then there's RSL. Another weekend and another win. 3 wins in a row, unbeaten in their last 7, still in first place in the West. They kick off 5 games in 15 days by beating Sporting Kansas City in a defensive grinder. Took till the last 10 minutes of the game before RSL broke through, and of course it was Chicho, right? He scored the header, and that was it. They got a shutout. I mean, this streak really coincides with Chicho getting hot and tremendous defense. That's it. It's another shutout. They've now had shutouts in 3 of the last 4 games. They've given up 1 goal in 4 games. So that is why they've taken 10 out of a possible 12 points in the last 4 games. There it is. As Pablo says, if you get the shutout, and life gets pretty easy. You can't lose if they can't score. Zach MacMath getting a shutout. He's got 2 of them. The teenager, Gavin Beavers, has the other one. Here is Zach MacMath after the game, after RSL shuts out Sporting Kansas City. Now 10 points clear of their former rivals in the standings. A nice win. Here is Zach MacMath.
Another shutout for you guys tonight, Zach. You guys only allowed 1 goal in the last 4 matches. What's been going well for you guys defensively?
Just a bunch of guys working for each other. Delmy was just asking how I was feeling. I'm mentally exhausted more than physically. I pride myself on trying to put these guys in the right spots to not only make my job easier, but theirs. And I think we've got 11 dedicated guys on the field at all times, and that's showing up with all the shutouts that we're having.
You mentioned being a little exhausted. You guys have the Open Cup coming up as well, and Pablo mentioned possibly rotating some guys in and out. What do you expect from that tournament and kind of the increased number of matches going forward?
Yeah, I think our team got a little bit of a taste of the Open Cup last year. We're getting so close in the semis, and to come away, going into OT with Houston last year, that it gives us more motivation to take this as seriously as possible and really make another run at it this year.
Zach, earlier Pablo was talking about how you guys as a defense, if you guys can keep it at zeros, that having a guy like Chicho up front and the other guys up there, they allow you guys to have the confidence that if you guys keep a clean sheet, they're gonna score on the other end. What's it like to be able to have confidence in the guys at the other end of the field like that?
Yeah, it's really nice. Obviously, as soon as Chicho arrived, I think he changed that dynamic for our team. I thought we always were pretty solid defensively, and sometimes we struggled to find a goal sometimes in games like tonight. And he's obviously done super well this year and really helped us last year, and credit to him and everyone up top making things happen tonight.
So I talked to Pablo this a little bit earlier, and I'd like to hear your take on it. We talk about how comfortable you are with the ball on your feet now, and we kind of describe it as attacking from the back to move forward. Can you just elaborate a little more on that?
Yeah, that's something we kind of changed this year in preseason, trying to not get on the ball more, but just be an option for the defenders in the way we build out. I feel super comfortable back there. I think the defenders feel comfortable playing me the ball at all times, and I think it's really helped us and created more of a dynamic attack starting with me.
Pablo also has said that it will take everyone in the team to get far in this season and to hopefully get championship. Now with the cup coming up, do you talk to Gavin and stuff like that, and how your communications are with him, and being in goal?
Yeah, I think Mirza, obviously, as a new goalkeeper coach for me, has done a great job communicating with Gavin and I. And, I think Gavin's going to play on Wednesday, and it's a great opportunity for him to continue, getting experience in his career. And, just as good of a teammate as he is to me tonight, I'm always going to be a good teammate to him, and we're going to continue to push each other and push everyone and help this team move forward.
Congratulations on the victory. Playing SKC, Kansas City, it looked like it turned out to be an old-style RSL Kansas City rivalry game. Do you enjoy those games, and do you see them as a rival?
Yeah, definitely see them as a rival. I think they've always prevented a tough test for us over the years. And honestly, a little bit of shoving kind of started by us, but we kind of talked about that, at halftime, like bring the fans into the game, bring our energy up. I don't think our energy was great in the first half. And maybe, doing that in the first 5 minutes of the second half really got us going and was the reason we ended up pulling away there.
Solid start to the season. Where do you think the team could improve? The defense is playing solid. You're not giving up a lot of goals. But where do you think you could make the most improvement moving forward?
It'd be great if we scored more goals. That's obviously the easiest way to win games is scoring goals. But I think continuing to play our style, play our way, to be brave in the way we play, and hopefully the goals keep coming and we find goals from more than just Chicho, and we can get guys on a little bit of a hot streak.
Zach, the save of the match was basically a cross that you got down quick and blocked. Is it great to have a few saves here and there? Is it nice to not really have to have a lot of saves in the game? What do you prefer?
Somewhere in between. No, it's like I said, mentally to stay locked in the game. I think they were kind of playing for a little bit of a transition game, so just trying to stay attached to the back line and help them as much as possible. But I thought I had a good rhythm in the game tonight, where not seeing so many shots didn't really affect me as much. Whereas last week, I think against Philadelphia, I felt a little bit more uncomfortable in the game just because of the way it turned out. But obviously, the guys did a great job in front of me, and kudos to them.
Does that help to have them play the ball to your feet and then play it out and run around a bit more?
Yeah, it helps keep me involved in the game. And sometimes I yell at Justin to pass me the ball, just to pass me the ball, so I can get a couple of touches. And it's good. I think that definitely helped keep me engaged tonight. And that's a great way to stay involved.
Anyone else in the room for Zach? Go ahead.
Zach, real quick. Last year, the Open Cup seemed to kind of get us out of an early season funk, and we had. Last year's Open Cup run, we had, I think, 32 players appear. We were unbeaten in 21 of 24 games after kind of a rough start. So I guess, can you just talk to generally how these other competitions and playing Saturday, Wednesday, Saturday, and having everybody kind of ready to go either Wednesday or Saturday kind of helps keep the group engaged?
Yeah, I think Pablo talks about it quite a bit, that, at the beginning of the year, we're going to need everyone. And last year was a good example of that. I think that will be the same this year. The reason our, starting lineup does so well, and I think we've been doing so well, is because the second 11 push us every week. And those guys are more than ready to step in if called upon. And I think you will see, obviously, a little bit of rotation for the Open Cup game, but those guys are in a great position to win that game and continue to push us, because even though it's maybe a couple different players here or there, we need to keep this momentum going.
With Vera being suspended both games this week in both competitions, Pablo shouted out that he really liked what he saw in 20 minutes from Phillip in Chicago. What have you seen from him in a couple weeks of training around the team now?
I think Phil's been really good. I think he's gelled well with the guys since coming in. Obviously, coming from a team like Columbus, who is a ball-playing team, very comfortable with the ball at his feet, and I think he will slot in there, hopefully, relatively easily. And obviously, having a guy that big, should be dangerous on set pieces and help out defensively. So I'm looking forward to kind of seeing how he does over longer minutes.
There is Zach MacMath after the victory. We are going to take a break. When we come back, Pablo Mastroeni, RSL head coach, and also the NBA playoffs. We have to get to those two things, and we will do that next. Stay with us. DJ and PK, it's 97.5 The Zone. Good morning, DJ and PK, it's 97.5 The Zone. Welcome in on a Monday morning. We'll get to the NBA playoffs here in just a moment, but first, Real Salt Lake with another win. These are good times. They shut out Kansas City. It actually looked like we might end up with a scoreless game, which would have been the second straight home scoreless game they've played, which really isn't good for business. But Chicho got the header, and they made the 1-goal stand up, and that was the difference. They beat Sporting Kansas City, so now RSL's won 3 in a row. They're unbeaten in their last 7 games. They've got shutouts in 3 of their last 4. They've given up just 10 goals in 11 games. Their defense has been outstanding. And Chicho now has 9 goals to go with 6 assists. He's been outstanding, and that combination is a winning combo. That's why you go unbeaten in 7 games. That's why you climb into first place in the West. And that is where they sit. Now, having said that, there's 5 teams separated by 3 points. I mean, it is crowded at the top of the West. And next weekend, RSL will be playing the Galaxy in L.A. Galaxy played a scoreless game in Seattle with the Sounders, so they're in 3rd place, 2 points back, and RSL will face them next Saturday. Midweek, RSL has to go play New Mexico in Albuquerque, New Mexico United, in the first game in the U.S. Open Cup for RSL. So it's busy. 5 games, 15 days for RSL, 1 down, 4 to go. Pablo Mastroeni, after the game, fielding questions on the victory over Sporting Kansas City.
You guys kind of struggled at times at home last season with the 0-0 draw in the last game at home and then struggling to score early on in this game. Did it feel good to just get that win at home?
Yeah, it really did. You know, again, I think we had a few good chances in the first half, you know, Jay Glad's and Andres' in particular. And then the second half, obviously, you know,
Pablo, Sporting had given up 11 goals in 4 games in April. Did you see something different from them defensively tonight?
You know, I think they dropped into a deeper block, and as you know, most teams like to get out and press, and so when we break the first line, we're basically going 5v4 to goal. I think tonight they did a really good job of clogging the middle midfield and asking us to really penetrate the wide areas. The one thing I'd say is, you know, I think our rotation with the ball was really slow at times, and that's one thing that we've been working on and we'll get better at. But I think they just did a really good job of getting numbers behind the ball and looking to counter. And then, you know, credit to the guys in the back who did a good job, I felt like, in particular in the second half of really, and one of the adjustments we made is making sure that we dealt with the guys that were behind the ball for them and making sure our rest defense was really good so that we can keep the pressure on in the attacking half. And, you know, I thought Diego came in and really gave the team a good spark with the ball. I felt like in the first half we just weren't able to settle the ball. And given that he only trained 1 day this week, you know, wanted to make sure that he was coming into a game in a way that suits his progress with 2 more games looming. But I thought he did a really good job tonight.
In his current form, is Chicho just a massive security blanket?
Yeah, I mean, if you ask the guys in the back, then you know it's amazing when you know if you keep zeros that you're going to get a great chance. You know, and Chicho's is what he does. You know, he's a killer in front of goal. And again, it's a tough burden to carry, that type of responsibility. But he's been doing it to this point, and the expectation is he's going to continue doing it.
You don't like to be too results driven, but do you think the performance has matched the shutouts you've seen? Because your team's only given up 1 goal in the last 4 games.
Yeah, no, I think we've done a great job. You know, before the game, I actually showed him a Man City clip, 2 actually, and I talk about this is the best football playing team in the world, and then I showed him 2 defensive clips. Right, this is what wins. This is what wins. If you can stop teams getting good chances, if your rest defense is high level, you have a chance to be in every game. And so it takes the team. It's not just the guys in the back, it's the guys in the middle that make, you know, that clog holes. It's the guys up front that make the play predictable. And as a collective, that's got to be our staple, whilst being exciting, entertaining, and being productive on the attacking end as well.
Congratulations. 3 wins in a row. You haven't lost since March, for 7 games. Where have you seen the most improvement, or where have you most proud about the improvement on the team so far this season? And where do you continue to want to see some improvement?
Yeah, I would say for us, it's really in every phase of the game, whether it's in the attacking side, defensive side, or either transition. I think you can always improve. You know, I would say for me, it's you know, the most important things are keeping the ball out and putting them in. And I think we've been able to do that in this run. And again, if you're scoring goals but you're leaking a lot, you're not going to be a great team. and vice versa. So for me, it's continuing to really work on all phases. Like I said earlier, in our build, it's really important that we move the ball quicker if we want to create an advantage by shifting the ball. If not, we're just passing it sideways just to pass it sideways. I think defensively, in the first half, we didn't get really good pressure on the ball. Our shape was a little bit messed up. That didn't allow anyone to take their cues from the guys up front. I think we tightened that up in the second half. And in transition, the one thing in attacking transition, our ability to really drive with the ball and commit numbers versus just bringing the team up. And so we're looking for an opportunity to score first, and then we're bringing in the rest of the group to set up our attacking structure. So I think it's been really good. I think it can get much better.
The Catranis Hidalgo sub, was that a necessity from the knock earlier in the first half, or was that tactical?
It's a little bit of both, right? So Catranis and Vera were on yellow cards. And, and Vera got a silly yellow card. So he's out next week and midweek. And then I think the most important thing is to try to keep as much consistency in the group as possible. I think Alex has been fantastic to this point. He got knocked 2 or 3 times. He's been dealing with an ankle for about a month and a half now. And I just felt like I didn't want to play with fire by keeping him on, having him get another yellow card. So that was really the decision, so that he's available for the next couple games. In our league, you have a 3-game stretch where if you don't get a yellow card in those 3 games, they rescind one of them, and that's what I'm hoping for.
Pablo back here. Can you see me
Yep.
in the dark? Yep. Sorry. I just am curious. You were just kind of mentioning how defense wins games, or at least how you have showed your guys defensive plays. And at the end there, I saw you at the very end, like game's over, you had your arm around Justin Glad, and it seemed like just a really cool moment between you two. He kind of took a breath and put his arm back around you. So I was just wondering, what was it that you were saying to him? Because obviously he's on that defensive side that led to your guys' success.
Yeah, he said it wasn't our best. He says, but we found a way. And he said to me, he says, man, if we keep zeros, we know that Chicho's going to knock one in. And so I think it's that level of belief in the group that where if we just do a really good job defensively, we know that Andres, Luna, Fidel, Chicho, Crooks, we're going to get looks on goal, and we just got to finish them. And so, again, I think for me, it's really awesome when guys take pride in their jobs. And one of the things I always talk to the guys about is there's no one when I talk to the players, I always say it's not your responsibility to win the game. It's your responsibility to do your job. And if we have 11 guys doing their job, we put ourselves in a great position to win the game. I stole that from Belichick, by the way. It's not.
You want me to do English or Spanish? Okay. So I recently talked to Glad, and he was telling us how the relationship with Vera is really good for him, because Vera is more of a physical guy, and that's Glad read the game. But how do you come to put those two together, or what was your idea behind putting them together?
Well, I think one of the things that we looked at for the last couple of years is having a left-footed player on that side of the field. And I think these players are very hard to find anywhere in the world, because if they're good technically and they're good defending and they're tough, like Vera is, it's just a very hard position to find. And when we scouted Vera, he had all the attributes that we were looking for. He's played a lot of left back when he was younger, so he's comfortable driving with the ball. He can find passes. He's actually a fantastic crosser of the ball as well. But when you bring his toughness to our back line, especially with Catranis next to him, it's a really tough back, left side of the back line to kind of penetrate. And so, and like you rightly said, I think Jay Glad complements Vera's. Jay Glad's great in the air. He's super fast, and will cover for Vera when Vera steps into the midfield to make a play. And so the two of them have formed a fantastic partnership and have been an integral part of what we've been able to do so far this year.
And my last question is still talking about the defense. We've seen Zach being very comfortable with the ball on his feet. We saw it today a couple of times when he was asking for it. And I like to say that you have this format where you attack him from the back as well.
Yeah.
Can you elaborate a little bit more from that?
Yeah, so, I think for us, and really in the modern game, is having a goalkeeper that's comfortable with the ball brings a lot of confidence to the guys, whether they're the midfielders coming to get it or center backs that are, starting the attack. And I feel like the calm that the goalkeeper has on the ball exudes to the rest of the group. And again, it allows Emeka and Brian to get in good positions to receive from Zach. It allows Vera and Glad to play off of them. It's something that we really hit on hard in the preseason, and we'll continue to get better at it. And in the game Gavin played in Chicago, I thought I did a really good job as well. And so it's something that we ask of our goalkeepers. And, again, like you rightly pointed out, attack always starts with the back. And if it's calm and sharp from the back, chances are it's going to work its way through midfield that way, and it's going to work its way to good opportunities on the final line.
Hey, Pablo, congratulations on the win. It seemed like in the first half, Gomez didn't receive the ball a whole bunch. It seemed like Kansas City was shifting that way a lot to deny service to him. What did you do in the second half? Was there anything specific that you did to try to enable him more?
Yeah, I think it was more, we just had a lot of interesting rotations that weren't necessarily prescribed, which is always the difficulty when you allow for creative expression. But too much flexibility then starts to compromise the structure. So at times, Chicho was rolling out really wide. Andres was coming inside because he wasn't finding space. And so at halftime, it was really about just getting back to our structure and occupying the spaces that will ask a lot of questions of the defense. And then it's decision-making. I felt like we didn't play Andres as much in the first half. In the second half, I felt like we found him quite a bit, but I think we can still find him more. And I think in the first half as well is when he was on the ball, some of the decisions led to counterattacks the other way. And so then the thought from a teammate would be, well, I don't want to lose it again, so I'm going to look him off and go the other way with it. So it's part tactical, but it's also part emotional in that moment where we lost quite a few balls in the first half in the middle midfield that sprung counterattacks going the other way. And I think in the second half we did a much better job of being more ball secure, of being more patient, and making better decisions when we received the ball.
Sí, en español. Pablo, ¿qué tanto falta le va a hacer Brian Vera el partido de Galaxy, especialmente por su suspensión?
¿Cómo? De nuevo, por favor.
¿Qué tanto falta le va a hacer Brian Vera en el partido de sábado?
Claro, para mí el Vera es uno de los mejores centrales del lado izquierda. Yo creo que trajimos un jugador nuevo en Philip Quinton. Y yo creo que cuando jugó contra Chicago, los 20 minutos que jugó bastante bien. Está esperando una oportunidad. Yo creo que este va a ser la oportunidad para competir con el J. Glad y Vera. Y vamos a ver. Y yo creo que en el partido contra Chicago también jugamos con dos laterales por el medio y el resultado fue 4-0. Así, ojalá tenemos el mismo resultado.
Ese partido fue muy físico. ¿Cómo ayudaste a los jugadores a mantener la calma, especialmente cuando las pitadas no fueran favorables a ellos?
Sí, hablamos recién en el vestuario y lo que dijo el Chicho, porque después de todos los triunfos hablan los jugadores. Cuando empatamos o perdemos el partido, hablo yo. Y lo que dijo el Chicho fue que la mentalidad fue buenísimo en el segundo tiempo. O sea, el primer tiempo nos jugamos bastante bien y no recibimos no cobró muchas fouls en nuestro favor, pero la mentalidad del grupo fue, tenemos que hacer lo que sea para ganar este partido. Y esa mentalidad del capitán es como una vibración al grupo y todos lo sienten y yo creo que jugaron bastante bien, mejor en el segundo tiempo y eso es lo más importante cuando las cosas no te salen, es cómo puedo ayudar al equipo en este momento y para mí lo hicieron en el segundo tiempo.
Just to summarize both questions, the first one was how big of a miss will Brian Vera be versus LA next week, and the second one was match was very physical. Like, what did you do to combat that? Just to summarize his answers as well. Brad Murray will obviously be a big miss, but they recently signed Philip Quinton from Columbus, and he's just kind of been waiting for another opportunity to play. This next match will be the opportunity for him. That the 20 minutes he played against Chicago looked very good, and that they played with 2 outside backs as center backs for Chicago, and they won 4-0, so he has confidence in his back line. But the team's mentality has just been that they need to find a way to win regardless of how the other team plays. And that it kind of stems from Chicho's captainship, his attitude and mentality, and the guys just feed off of that.
Oh, Pablo, me gustaría preguntarte, ya en inglés hicieron algunas preguntas con respecto a eso, pero sobre el tema defensivo del equipo. A mí lo que me sorprende un poco más es de que los nombres no han cambiado mucho en la saga central y los resultados han mejorado. Si bien Vera llegó un poco tarde la temporada pasada, creo que este año defensivamente Glad, Vera, Brody, los que han tocado jugar, Catranis incluso, que es la incorporación, han rendido de buena manera. ¿Qué hiciste tú y qué modificaste para que los resultados defensivos sean mejores sin tener que hacer mucho cambio en jugadores?
Yo creo que son dos cosas. Primero, yo creo que el esfuerzo de los jugadores más adelante, el Crooks, el Chicho, el Ando, hacen que la jugada es más predecible. O sea, la presión que estamos poniendo para iniciar la defensa es mejor que el año pasado. Y eso, para mí, ahora nos da la oportunidad para que el Ojeda sale del medio para ayudar con la presión. Cuando ya se hace predecible la jugada, sale el Ojeda. Y eso son las dos cosas de esa parte. Pero más, yo creo que estamos presionando todos los saques de meta que tienen el equipo rival y pasamos mucho tiempo en la semana trabajando en eso, porque si podemos ganar la pelota de un saque de meta, ahora estamos 50 metros del arco y eso también nos ha ayudado. La última es cómo queremos jugar. Es cuando perdemos el balón tenemos mejores reacciones y el jugador más cerca presiona el balón. Y yo creo que como un grupo, cuando perdemos el balón, estamos más enchufados este año que el año pasado. Y las tres cosas, yo creo que el trabajo de Vera y Glad es fundamental, pero yo creo que cuando se hace la jugada más predecible, el trabajo de ellos se hace más fácil.
To translate the question was that the defensive results have been a lot better this year, but there haven't been a lot of changes name-wise within the back line. What changes have Pablo made or modifications to kind of get better results defensively? His answer was that it's kind of a whole collective team effort, that it starts with the guys up front and the midfield kind of making the play predictable for the guys behind them. And also kind of just the partnership that Vera and Glad have together has been fundamental, and just the communication between them.
Bueno, y la última. Vemos que en la parte alta, tanto de goleadores como asistidores, está Messi, Suárez, pero también ahí está Chicho. Creo que se habla mucho de Chicho en cuanto a su rendimiento individual, tanto en lo goleador como en lo colectivo, pero cuando él no mete goles y asistencias también aporta mucho al juego del Real Salt Lake. Como capitán, y también a ti que te gusta mucho hablar sobre la mentalidad, ¿cómo lo has visto a él desde el principio de la temporada para poder mostrar los números que ha mostrado hasta ahora?
Mira, yo creo que este año cuando miras el vestuario es el líder del grupo y cómo entrena, cómo ayuda al equipo, aporta al equipo de la manera de asistencias y goles, lucha en todos los entrenamientos. O sea, es un jugador, una persona que lo querés seguir hasta el fin del mundo, porque es el ejemplo todos los días. Y también, como no hay tantos veteranos en el grupo, ahora el año pasado no tenía mucha voz en el vestuario porque, claro, era nuevo, tuvimos el Saba, el Dami, habían otros jugadores con un poco de liderazgo. Y cuando se fueron, abrió un hueco para que pudiera hablar, comunicar con los compañeros. Y por eso es tan fundamental para este grupo. Y ahora hay que encontrar momentos durante el campeonato donde no lo podemos sacar de un partido, porque a este momento no ha salido. El primer partido jugó 80 minutos, pero los restos ha jugado 90. y es imposible que un jugador siga en ese, con ese paso para adelante y lo tenemos que cuidar y darle descanso cuando podemos.
So the question was, Chicho is kind of up there with the big names in the MLS with Suarez, Messi. Like, what has he seen from Chicho this season that has allowed him to get there? And he says that he's just a leader for the team. His hard work at practice, that the boys in the locker room would follow him to the end of the world because that's just the example and energy that he sets for the team. But also just how the way he helps the team with his goals and his assist. And that they need to find matches where they're more comfortably leading at the end so Chicho can come off because he's been playing a lot of minutes. Only in the first game versus Miami did he come off for the last 10. But other than that, he's been playing full 90s, and they need to take care of him.
There was Pablo Mastroeni, RSL head coach, after yet another win, their third in a row. DJ and PK is proudly presented by Murdoch Hyundai, Utah's #1 Hyundai dealer for 18 years in a row. All right, promised a little NBA playoffs. The playoffs are over for Joe Ingles and the Orlando Magic. Knocked out in Game 7, the unusual series where the home team won all 7 games. Home team went 7-0 as Cleveland knocked out Orlando 4-3. That was a big game in Cleveland. I mean, I know it's just the first round, but they haven't won a playoff series since LeBron went to LA to play for the Lakers. They haven't won a playoff series without LeBron since 1993. I mean, you're going back to Craig Elo, Michael Jordan matchups. Not that Cleveland won those, but they still had good teams. They didn't win playoff series back in the day. So it's a big deal. And they thought they were going to win one last year, and the Knicks smoked them in 5 games. And this time they really struggled to put Orlando away, but they finally did it. They were down 18 in the second quarter. I mean, it looked bad. Donovan was 3 for 13. They were struggling. The thing about Donovan is he's an established star. He knows how to get to the free throw line. He gets the benefit of the doubt as a veteran from referees. So he kept them afloat. Even though he's 3 for 13, he had 15 points. He was 9 of 10 at the free throw line. And they had a nice little run before halftime. Sam Merrill hit a couple of big three-pointers in the second quarter. They helped get that lead from 18 down to 10. And then in the third quarter, Orlando finally looked like a young team. And we have young players in the NBA. The next generation is coming, right? Ant-Man's 22 years old. He's putting on a show in Minnesota. We'll get to that game in a minute. Paulo Banchero is only 21. He's in his second year. He's in his first playoff series. And he looked great. He had 38 in the game, but he wasn't good in the second half of the game. It was a struggle in the second half, and it kind of looked like the rest of them were waiting on him. And the third quarter went to the Cavs like 33-15, and Donovan Mitchell outscored the Magic 18-15. He's comfortable in this moment, this bigger stage, bigger spotlight. And I realize there's bigger stages and bigger spotlights, and he may or may not be comfortable in those. But Orlando hadn't been in a Game 7 in the first round. Donovan has won first-round series a couple of times, and he got it done. He finished with 39 points. He had 50 in Game 6, 39 in Game 7. And he was cold in the first half, but he sure heated up there in the third. And really, he wasn't that big in the fourth. They didn't need him. It's weird that they were down 18 with 4 minutes left before halftime. And by the time the fourth quarter started, it felt like it was over. I mean, mathematically, they certainly could have come back, but just watching Orlando and their body language and the way they were playing, they were not coming back. It wasn't happening, and it didn't happen. So Cleveland's on to the second round, and they will face the Boston Celtics. The game Saturday night was interesting in that Minnesota went into Denver and won Game 1. Ant-Man's all that. Denver's got a tremendous amount of size. They bully a lot of people. Yes, the Joker is highly skilled. And yes, Murray is something special. But they got a lot of size, and they got a lot of height along the front line. And it just doesn't seem to matter against Minnesota. So Minnesota wins Game 1. We'll see if they sustain that. I thought Rudy Gobert banking in a shot from the high post like it's like 1965 or something in the fourth quarter. Well, if Rudy's going to do that, then Minnesota's going to win. But I can't believe Rudy's going to sustain that. So it'll be interesting to see how that series goes. But certainly Minnesota with a shot across the bow to get Denver's attention. And I actually thought the Joker, in one of the media sessions before the series started, said, because he struggled at times with Gobert when Gobert was in Utah, and he said, everyone was making fun of Minnesota, but I thought getting Gobert was a good deal. And if this yields a title, who cares how many draft picks they gave up, right? You trade however many draft picks, and struggle for however long if it yields a title. Now, this is one win in the second round. Essentially, it's 5 down, 11 to go for Minnesota. But, man, going into Denver and beating the champs in Game 1, first off, that checks one of the 4 boxes, right? 1 down, 3 to go. But on top of that, it's just got to give you a ton of confidence. It's got to give them a ton of confidence going forward here. So, All right, we will have more on the playoffs coming up later in the show. We'll have some more in what is trending. It's kind of a light weekend with just the, one game Saturday and one game Sunday. But we'll get to that coming up. Coming up next, the NHL. Got to go to school on the NHL. There is a lot to learn about the NHL, and we will do that next. Stay with us. DJ and PK, this is 97.5 The Zone. We're joined now by Chris Bengel, NHL writer for CBS Sports. Chris, good morning.
Good morning. How are you?
Good. So my job as a local sportscaster in Utah for 30 years has been to cover local sports, and the NHL has not been a local sport. Am I a sports fan? Absolutely. But this time of year, I'm not watching the Stanley Cup playoffs. A, I watch Jazz playoff games if they're in it, and then B, I watch NBA playoff games next. And then C, if I'm on Twitter and I see Game 7's gone to overtime, of course I turn it on. I'm a sports fan. It's drama. It's fun. I love to watch it. But I need to know a little more about the NHL so that I know enough to be dangerous. There's my goal. Are you ready to educate me and bring me along?
Of course. First off, I think, the NHL is up there with one of the most chaotic postseasons that there can be.
Right.
The drama is usually endless. We just saw last night Toronto forced a Game 7 against Boston. That should be pretty exciting this weekend. We've got Vegas and Dallas, Game 6 tonight. If Vegas can force Game 7, that'll be insanely exciting. It's just endless, the amount of, theater you can have when it comes to the NHL. It's more so than other sports, I think. A lot of years with, the NBA and other sports, you kind of know, these couple teams are the teams that are going to be right there at the end to potentially win the Stanley Cup. But I feel like with the NHL, it's more wide open, especially this year on a year-in and year-out basis. You just never know what you're going to get. There's so many great teams, and I think you're going to love the sport.
I believe everything you say. I've had multiple people say all those things to me over the years, including people I've worked with here who are huge hockey fans who can't believe I'm not more into hockey, but it's not the job. And the job requires watching a lot of sports. So question one for you. Obviously, Ryan Smith, it's a weird deal, right? He bought the Coyotes, but he didn't buy the Coyotes. It's officially a new team. Right. The team was officially sold to the league and then sold to him. But he did get the hockey side of the operations, not the business side. So he does get the GM, Bill Armstrong, and the head coach, Andre Tourny. How respected are they? What do people think of them around the league? Because obviously, if they'd won a lot, then everybody would think they're awesome. This team's missed the playoffs 11 times in 12 years. These guys weren't here for all of that, so that's not on them. And when they have been there, they kind of had their hands tied because the previous owner didn't have the money and didn't have the arena, and they couldn't do everything. So what does the league think of these two guys? Because it looks like they're going to be running the show here for a while.
I think with both Armstrong and Tourny, you're getting, two guys that hadn't really had a chance to do it before. Tourny was, he's the coach in the Quebec Major Junior League, the OHL at the junior level. Never really got a chance to, be an NHL head coach, and this is his first go-around with that. And, so far, each of the 3 seasons, this team has improved. Went up 8 wins from last season to this season, which is pretty impressive considering, a couple years ago, this was a team that only won 25 games. So he's definitely gaining that respect in terms of how he's viewed around the league and has proven that he can be a great coach. The Coyotes last year weren't exactly, they weren't in playoff contention per se, but they weren't as far out as they normally are. And, this is a roster that has a ton of young talent. Clayton Keller, Matthias Michelli. There's a lot of guys that Utah fans are going to come to know and, come to love when this team, starts playing next year.
I can dive into some of the simple stats and see some of the problems and see why they're missing the playoffs. And one of them is they allowed 274 goals, and that's tied for 24th in the 32-team league. Well, that's not good. How quickly can whatever we're going to call this team upgrade their defense?
The one drawback I would say with, kind of free agency this summer, which, tends to be a very active time for many teams, the only issue for Utah is kind of going to be that there's not a ton of marquee defensemen that are going to be available. Some of the top options are going to be Brandon Montour from the Panthers and Brett Pesce from the Hurricanes. But those are guys on teams that are, still in the playoffs contending for a Stanley Cup. So potentially those players get re-signed, which, obviously that wouldn't be a good thing if those are guys that, this team is trying to look at. Up and down, there isn't a ton of depth. They did get a nice season from Sean Dursey in his third year, first two come with the Kings. When he came over, had a career best 41 points, which is, pretty exceptional. There is room for growth still with him, obviously, being only 25 years old. They do have a couple guys in the pipeline. Dmitry Samashov was the number 6 pick last year as a Russian kid playing over in the KHL, so probably won't see him the next, at least probably until 25, 26, I would say at the earliest. But a fantastic skater and puck mover that really could help this team down the road. So, I don't think it's something that's done through free agency, at least this year, for this team. But I still think the talent is there in the system down the road.
The coach, Andre Tourny, says the 14-game losing streak that they had last 3 games in January and every single game they played in February, he said that was a result of the rumors breaking about Utah. And now they earned 77 points in 82 games. So really they got those 77 points in 68 games. If they were just averaging a point a game instead of having that 14-game losing streak, that alone next year, mathematically, you could see where that would put them on at least the edge of the playoff race. With those rumors put to bed and with the internal improvement you're talking about with young guys getting better, is it realistic to think that they should be a playoff team next year? Should they be competing for a playoff? Where would you set the goals for them?
I think contending at least for a wild card spot is within the realm of possibilities. I mean, like you said, when these rumors kind of came out, you got to remember at the end of the day, like I get, these are professional athletes, but at the end of the day, they're human beings. They, don't know what the future holds, where they're going to be living, everything like that. So without that and, the last couple of years they were playing in a 5,000-seat college arena at Arizona State. Like, it wasn't exactly an ideal situation for guys that have been on the team the last few years. So I think with, the depth that they have, the talent that they have, and, a lot of these guys are younger players that are going to continue to improve. I think being in the playoff conversation, I don't think it's crazy. If, this was a traditional situation, like they weren't dealing with those rumors, would they have made the playoffs? I mean, maybe not, but I think they would have been right there, or at least, within, 4 or 5 points of a wild card spot maybe. And, who knows, maybe it turns out differently. But I think having that more stable environment next season should have them within contention at the very least for a wild card spot.
Chris Bengel joining us. He's an NHL writer for CBS Sports. You mentioned the chaotic nature of the Stanley Cup playoffs. The Maple Leafs and then the Coyotes, whatever they'll be called here, have the 2 longest Stanley Cup final droughts. They have not been to the Cup final in the longest time. It's 55 years for the Maple Leafs now since they were in the final. And Arizona came in 1979-80, actually played in Canada before they moved to Arizona. So they have never made it in 44 seasons. Now they'll move to Utah. They'll have their third identity. It'll be their 45th season. They've never been to a Stanley Cup final. What has gone wrong that those clubs have that kind of drought where everybody else at some point figures it out and you're the 2 that haven't?
Yeah, I mean, when you're talking about, first off, a team like the Maple Leafs who, are in the playoffs this year, still fighting for their playoff lives. There's so much storied tradition with a team like that there's a lot of pressure for them to perform. I mean, before last season, they hadn't won a playoff series in, 9-10 years, I believe it was. There are those huge expectations, and when, it's kind of a lot of times make a deep Stanley Cup run or bust, with a fan base like that. So I think on that aspect of it, there was a lot of pressure. But as far as the Coyotes go, they have been to the conference final once in, their entire history since they were in Arizona. Early in that tenure, they had guys like Jeremy Roenick, Keith Tkachuk, obviously Shane Doan, who, a little more recent, but the talent has always been there, but they just, for whatever reason, weren't able to put it together. But I think, now kind of having a fresh start certainly is going to be a good thing for them. All these players, like we said, put all those rumors to bed. They know what's happening. They or be more comfortable in a new spot. And I think it seems like the fan base is already, based on the event that they had last week, kind of rabid for this team. And as we've seen with, Vegas and Seattle in recent years, while it's a little bit different of a scenario, it's still a market that hadn't had, an NHL team before. And I think, that's going to be great for this team. And, maybe they can feed off that kind of like Vegas did back in their first year.
The Rangers had the best record in the league. They haven't won the Cup since Messier did it, right, 30 years ago, and that was the first time in 50 years. Now, you've already talked about the chaotic nature. Is New York going to get it done? Is there somebody else you like? How do you handicap the playoffs here?
So unfortunately, last year New York burnt me bad. I was, sipping the Kool-Aid a little bit. They went out and got Patrick Kane, Vladimir Tarasenko at the trade deadline, and I thought that would put them over the top, but they fell in the opening round. And obviously, regular season wise, the Rangers were ridiculous this year. President's Trophy, best record in the entire league. They're extremely loaded up and down their roster. Supreme goaltending, Igor Shesterkin, solid blue line, the forward depth. Artemi Panarin had a career year, playing out of his mind. But if I'm handicapping it, there's definitely a few teams I think I like more than the Rangers. Personally, I have the Hurricanes winning it all, which is going to be very interesting considering those two are going to start their series this weekend. That's going to be a lot of fun. The Hurricanes added Jake Gensel from the Pittsburgh Penguins at the trade deadline. He's been phenomenal since he came over. This is a team that likes to skate the puck in. They don't, aren't kind of a dump and chase team that relies on their forecheck. So having that along with supreme goaltending from Frederik Andersen, I think they're kind of my team to beat. I just think they're, about as loaded as it comes. And then I'm also got my eye on the Stars Golden Knights series tonight. Whoever comes out of that series also, I think, has the potential to win it all. Stars have 8 guys that scored 20 goals this year. Vegas is loaded at the center position with adding Tomas Hertl at the trade deadline. And, for the first time in the series last game, a home team actually won. So it'll be interesting to see if that happens again tonight with the game being in Vegas. But I think, the Rangers are not my pick as it stands right now, but I think that's because this playoff field is so deep this year. I think there's several teams that could definitely win it.
7 Canadian teams in the league out of 32, and no Canadian team has won it since Montreal in '93. It seems like somebody brings that stretch up. Are there can anybody in Canada realistically think they're going to compete year after year, or are they at a huge disadvantage financially, and that's why half the Canadian teams don't even seem to make the playoffs?
I think it seems like there's a very big talent gap. Like you've got, especially this year, I think it was more evident. You obviously got Toronto who, their fan base, their franchise, always thinks that they have the talent to compete, which, obviously when you're a storied franchise like that, you kind of have to think that way. Winnipeg, I think maybe for the first time since they relocated back, I think this year were, kind of looked at as they could be a juggernaut. They added Tyler Toffoli at the trade deadline to provide some scoring, but were absolutely steamrolled by Colorado in the first round, lost in 5 games. But then, you look on the bottom scale of it, you've got Calgary Flames struggled this year, have been, not great since Johnny Gaudreau left. You also got, I think the Canadians are slowly but surely making their way back, but, they need some help in a lot of areas, have a few young guys they can build around. But I really just think that, when it comes to the Canadian teams, like Toronto, that's a team that I feel like when they're good, like hockey fans or even maybe not hockey fans will take notice of that because that's such a marquee franchise, kind of like don't want to equate them to like the Cowboys in football, but like it's, a storied franchise like that has, that kind of allure when it comes to, Toronto's in a game 7, maybe people are going to watch. So, it'll be interesting to see if they can get it done this time around and get to the next round.
All right, well, I feel a little smarter. It's going to take a lot of this. I'm a slow learner and all that, Chris, but I feel a little smarter now. Thanks for a solid 20 minutes of hockey talk.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me.
Chris Bengel, NHL writer for CBS Sports, joining us right here on The Zone. DJ and PK brought to you in part by America First Credit Union. Get the official debit cards of the Utah Jazz, University of Utah Sports, Real Salt Lake, and more exclusively at America First Credit Union. Coming up next, what is trending? All the headlines are on the way.
It's time to get your morning started with the news you need to know.
News update.
News update. This is what's trending with DJ and PK. Hashtag NBA.
Cavs with the ball. Down by 11. Mitchell in the backcourt. Right side Merrill. Stops. 3. Bullseye! Mitchell on the left side. Donovan into the paint. Put it up. Good, and a foul to go with it. We got a tie game, and Mitchell heading to the free throw line to put the Cavs on top.
First of all, I'm tired of losing the first round. That's first and foremost, and that's just, that's you work too hard. We work too hard as a group, so that was kind of my mindset, and understanding that they were going to go on a run. I'm glad it was the first half. That kind of gave us something to respond to. You know what I mean? But for me, just being attack-minded.
The Cleveland Cavaliers beat the Orlando Magic 106-94. They were down 18 in the second quarter, but Donovan Mitchell went off, outscored the Magic all by himself in the third quarter, 18-15. Orlando hits the wall, and Cleveland gets the win, PK, in the rare series where the home team did win 7 straight games.
Well, that tells you that neither team has a chance to go all the way. That's what it screams to me. But that doesn't take away from anything in the first round. It was an exciting series, a lot of fun basketball. Mitchell's a great player. I get it. He's tired of losing in the first round. He's going to be even more tired of losing in the second round. But for the last few games, man, he's been playing very, very well.
He had 39 points, 9 rebounds, 5 assists when that was all said and done. And his third quarter changed the game. Actually, the fourth quarter felt like it was pretty much done at that point. The Magic didn't have anything left. Mathematically, they were close enough. It just never felt like they were going to do it.
I didn't watch the game, so I have no idea.
Game 1, Pacers-Knicks, 5:30 to do today. And Timberwolves-Nuggets, Game 2 at 8 o'clock. Those are the games on TNT tonight. Surprised Minnesota won Game 1 in Denver?
Not at all.
Really?
But I'm one of these guys that does not go crazy. See, if you were to ask me in a regular season, are you surprised that Minnesota went to Denver and beat them? You'd say no. But somehow in the postseason, it just is almost like it's unfathomable. It's not first team to win one game in the other opponent's court. It's first team to 4. Can they win the series? Yes. Can they lose the series? Yes. And that's for both teams.
Chicago Bulls guard Lonzo Ball picked up his player option for next season worth $21.4 million. He's not played in more than 2 seasons. He's had surgery on his left knee 3 times. Nobody was going to give him anywhere or anything close to $21.4 million, so he took it. DJ and PK.
Hashtag NFL.
I do think about that a lot, but right now I'm just focused where my feet are, just getting healthy and, getting everybody around me better, being a great teammate.
Gronk, I've been watching you on Fox NFL Sunday, and I'm begging you, please, stop doing your job.
Bill Belichick at the roast for Tom Brady, roasting Gronk, turning around his famous line, just do your job, please stop doing your job. So there it was.
I'm not a big roast guy.
Those used to be a thing. They seem to have largely gone away. But there was one last night.
I never paid attention to them. I don't find them funny. I find them contrived. And this expression, your feet are, why not your elbows? Because when you think of your elbows, if they're out of whack, it just throws everything out of whack.
Nah, baseball swings, golf swings.
Shooting, basketball,
yeah. Your free throw shot, your 3-pointer.
I'd say be where your elbows are.
Jets rookie 5th-round pick Jordan Travis sees himself as the eventual successor to Aaron Rodgers.
Why not?
Because that's where his feet and his elbow are.
Well, it has to be elbows.
Elbows?
If you go plural, you can't just go elbow.
So it's really important that he tucks the non-throwing elbow against his ribs?
Well, would you rather have one elbow or two elbows?
Rather have two.
Right. I'm just talking from a grammatical standpoint. Not a technical throwing standpoint.
Okay.
If you use the plural R, you can't use the singular elbow. I didn't make up the rules here.
Longtime Houston Texas star J.J. Watt says he's open to suiting up for the franchise again if needed. He retired in 2022. He's 35 years old. He feels a little better. And nothing matches the thrill of playing. So he'd give it one more go.
Did he feel bad when he retired?
I think he did battle injuries late in his career, so I think he feels better after a year away.
Okay.
And Odell Beckham Jr. to Miami for 1 year. What is Odell Beckham Jr. now? Is he like 70% of what he was? 40% of what he was?
What was he?
At the top of his game, he was awesome, but his awesomeness feels a little in the old rearview mirror now.
Okay.
I think 3 touchdowns last year. Not that was a good game or two for him at the peak of his career, but DJ and PK.
Hashtag college football.
A South Carolina court has ordered the ACC to turn over documents about its agreement with ESPN that Clemson had requested in its lawsuit against the conference. Clemson, Florida State, they're going to find a way out. The question is, how quickly? But they'll be out and on their way to the Power 2, mixing it up in court. Former Oregon State and Nebraska coach Mike Riley has been named to the College Football Playoff Selection Committee, replacing Pat Chun, who was recently hired as Washington's AD. So Mike Riley can get in there and look at the rankings and pick his favorite teams.
Mr. Good Guy, Mike Riley. But, I mean, you needed to set it up. But my thought process is, and I could be wrong, certainly, is that it'll be so abundantly, overwhelmingly obvious. But you need somebody, and not that he's going to be a singular guy, I get that, but you need somebody to set up the brackets. You know, but I don't anticipate it being controversial. But I guess we'll have to see how it plays out. It seems like when you extend it as much as they are, it should be obvious. But we're not going to be arguing about the 13th team.
Small controversies, who gets 4 and who gets 5, and who gets a bye and who doesn't, and then who's 8 and 9, and who gets a home game and who doesn't.
You had to win a conference to get the bye.
Oh, so all 4 of the conference champs, that's going to be done for them, huh? Okay. I think you are probably right about that. My bad. So that doesn't leave a whole lot then. Home game.
That's what I'm saying.
Who gets the home game at 8 or 9? And then who's the last team in?
Right.
And maybe someone, how could they be seeded that late? If something like Florida State happens, I mean, this year it was leave them out. Next year it'll be, should they be 5 or 7 or whatever? But to your point,
there'll be some form of controversy because you have to have something to talk about on that Monday.
Right. But there'll be small controversy.
And the NFL isn't to the playoff yet. And maybe we'll have the in-season tournament. I mean, that'll be something that'll just be a barn burner. The Lakers showed us that meant a whole hell of a lot this year. So there will be some form, but it'll be mostly manufactured as opposed to being legitimate beefs. How could they do this? How could they do that? That's the way I anticipate. We'll see how it plays out. But that's my line of thinking going into the first year.
DJ and PK.
Hashtag Major League Baseball.
First pitch to Shohei. Swung on and hammered. Deep center field. Way back and gone. A first pitch home run for Shohei Ohtani. It is 5-1. Ohtani with 2 home runs today.
Here's the pitch. And a swing and a high drive. Deep right center field. On the run, Yastrzemski into the gap at the track, at the wall. It's gone.
0-2 yet again. Swinging a ball lofted into center field. Over is Beatty. Peter dives. It goes by him. It goes all the way to the wall. Caballero scores. Here comes Rodred. There will be no throw. It's a walk-off win for the Rays.
Highlights from around Major League Baseball. The two big dogs in the National League squaring off, and the Dodgers sweep the Atlanta Braves. Shohei with 2 homers in the 5-1 win on Sunday to complete the sweep.
I mean, it's still April or May now, obviously, but that was nice for the Dodgers. They're doing what their $5 trillion payroll is supposed to allow them to do.
Get 10 games over 500 and start pulling away in the National League West. Set themselves up for the postseason. The other sweeps, the Phillies swept the Giants. So the Phillies have an even better record than the Dodgers right now, for whatever that's worth. But Phillies got a 3-run homer from Bryce Harper, and they beat the Giants 5-4 and sweep that series. And the Orioles, Anthony Santander with the grand slam, and the Orioles pound the Reds 11-1, and they sweep that series. So
Santander?
Santana was a high school near where I grew up in. Santander with the slam. Bees lost in Oklahoma 4-1, and college baseball, the Utes salvaged the final game of the series in Oakland. Arizona swept their series in Oregon, and Arizona.
Eugene, Oakland, same thing.
Yeah, Oakland, Oregon, a lot of trees. So Arizona's got a 2-game lead now with 6 games left in the Pac-12 season, and Arizona's coming in to face the Utes this week with the conference title hanging in the balance. But Arizona with a leg up now after a good weekend of baseball for them.
Hopefully it won't snow.
DJ and PK.
Hashtag RSL.
If you ask the guys in the back, then it's amazing when you know if you keep zeros that you're going to get a great chance. And Chicho's is what he does. He's a killer in front of goal. And again, it's a tough burden to carry, that type of responsibility. But he's been doing it to this point, and the expectation is he's going to continue doing it.
Chicho with a header for the game's only goal with about 10 minutes to go. He scores late. RSL gets a shutout. They've won 3 in a row. They've shut out 3 of the last 4 opponents, given up a single goal in those 4 games. They're unbeaten in 7. They're in the top spot. They are rolling right now. And coming off that win, they got to play midweek. They're going to play New Mexico United in Albuquerque as they begin playing the Open Cup tournament on Wednesday. And now the games come fast and furious twice a week for most, if not all of this month. That'll depend on whether they win in New Mexico or not. They've got 1 open date in there, and it'll get filled if they win Wednesday. Royals lose 2-1 to Angel City FC. DJ and PK. Golf. Taylor Pendrith wins his first career PGA Tour title. That'll get him into some big events, PK.
Never heard of him.
With the first tour win.
He's a Canadian.
Still never heard of him.
Put him on the dance card.
He's going to be playing for Mike Weir in that President's Cup, I believe.
Little President's Cup. Little PGA Championship, the Masters next year, qualifying for the Slams, the big events. Good for him. Birdie at 18 to win it on the final day, final round. 72nd hole, he gets it done. DJ and PK.
Knocked down by Lofgren. Gary leads Panarin. Left circle. He shoots. Save. No! He scores! He scores! The Rangers lead 4-2.
Leaves it for Smith. Back for Fox. It was in his skates. Backhand. He scored! Radek Faksa! Opening minute of the third.
NHL.
The Dallas Stars get the series-winning goal. Game 7, opening minute of the third period. They knock out the champs, the Las Vegas Golden Knights. Are done. There will be no repeat. Stars move on to face the Avalanche. And the Rangers won the first game of their second-round series. They beat Carolina 4-3. The Stanley Cup playoffs march on. DJ and PK, that is what is trending. Coming up, Steve Cleveland's going to join us at 7:30. We will talk NBA playoffs with him. And in the 9 o'clock hour, our spring football tour starts. David Smoak, host of 365 Sports in Waco, Texas, covering the Baylor Bears, is going to join us at 9 o'clock. And Jay Stevens, NHL insider for The Zone, will be here at 9:30. DJ and PK, it's 97.5 The Zone.
Ladies and gentlemen, may I present...
This is JJ and Alex.
Tim Twyman, DetroitLions.com. Let's chat a little bit about Sione Vaki.
And I think Brad Holmes saw that and saw a kid with his skill set, his body type, and now Vaki can be a core special teamer right away. And I think that's how he's going to get on the field right away. Obviously, at running back, Jahmyr Gibbs and David Montgomery are a really great duo here. But I think where Vaki can step in right away is I wouldn't be surprised if he's returning kicks in rookie minicamp and early in training camp and then be a core special teamer. I think they got a terrific athlete, one of the most versatile players, and they really like that pick. Brad said that was one of the guys he woke up going into Saturday saying, I really want that guy, and moved up to get him, and that's where I see his role early.
Catch JJ and Alex afternoons from 3 to 6. Presented by G2G Bars on 97.5 The KSL Sports Zone.
DJ and PK, Hot Takes or Toast, brought to you by Siegfried and Jensen, with 30 years of serving Utah. Question of the morning, Donovan Mitchell's team advances to the second round. Are you happy, glad, or sad? Believe it or not, there are people trying to pass off that they are indifferent. They feel nothing. Dave Gray, indifferent. Tommy, not the Jazz, don't care.
Don't believe it.
There are plenty of people who do care. Chad, the Jazz pulled the plug too soon. Should have kept the core and found a way to bring in the right guys to get us to the championship series. We were, all caps, so close, exclamation point.
Close to what?
Apparently, he believes the championship series.
The finals you're talking about?
That's it. Of course, they never made it to the fourth round because they never made it to the third round.
Yeah.
They only made it to the second round a couple times.
But sometimes it takes a bit. You know, look at Minnesota. Last year, they're punching each other on the sidelines. This year, they're up 1-0. They've got a legitimate shot. I don't know if they're going to win. They probably have as much chance to win as they do lose, which is a pretty good chance. If you got a 50-50 chance, I mean, I think you take that in this world of competitive basketball, competitive anything. That's a pretty high mark to say you've got a good chance to win. And they didn't make a whole lot of wholesale changes after last year was viewed as a big disappointment, and the Jazz won that trade. Did they really win the trade? I don't know that they won the trade. And if Minnesota wins the title, then there's no way they won the trade.
If Minnesota wins the title, Minnesota won the trade.
Yeah, but that doesn't mean it can't be a win-win. But there's so much to be determined on these trades that they made, getting rid of both of the All-Stars, that you won't really know for a good while. I would have liked to see Orlando win. It would have been fun as an up-and-coming team. How about the situation with Donovan Mitchell? I believe, to me, he's a fun guy to watch play the game of basketball. So from that perspective, from an entertainment perspective, I'm glad that he's still playing, because when he gets going, you know, he really can be something. And then you factor in being a little bit of a smaller guy, and that makes it, you know, a little more special. The 6'7" guy, we've come to expect that. They list Mitchell at 6'3". I don't think he's 6'3", having stood next to him many times over. But he can be an exciting ball player. We saw it here locally, and we're seeing it there in Cleveland. So from that perspective, I'm glad that he's still playing. I want to see what he can do.
That's because you're a fan of the NBA. If you were a fan of a team, you'd be like Nick, sad. I was hoping we'd still be able to hold first-round exits over his head. That's a bitter fan perspective right there, Nick.
Okay, that's all right.
I know.
He scorned you, man.
I've been a bitter fan, Nick. I know exactly what you're going at here. Yeah.
He left you. He wanted out. This community wasn't good enough for him. He was, what was he, drained, exhausted, whatever he was?
I think he was drained.
Yeah, he was drained by living here with all the racists that we have in our community. Just draining. And they all apparently got on social media. So I can understand that. He scorned you in the manner that Hayward scorned you. He didn't want to be here. You want to be here. You want them to love you as much as you love them. And he didn't do it.
And there it is. A tale as old as time.
Yeah, for sure. I get it.
Plays out across so many sports over the years.
Yeah, but not
More
nearly
noticeable-
as much as what we have here.
More noticeable in basketball.
But how many people want out of where they're living because they just can't stand it in the professional ranks?
Well, you got to be really not that many because there aren't that many players that have that kind of leverage.
Okay,
I haven't lived there, but if we went and surveyed, how mad were Washington National fans at Bryce Harper for going to Philly. But again, you got to be really good to have that kind of leverage.
They won a
it's not
title
that
without
many.
him. How mad were they?
Well, I think there were fans afterwards going, "Ha! Take that! We won a title without you." I do think they were bitter.
I don't think he said he didn't want to live there, though.
Yeah, that could be an extra twist to the knife.
That's
I
a
get that.
massive, not can be. It absolutely is, without a shadow of a doubt. It's enormous.
Whether you say it or not, though, when you take off.
And Bryce Harper,
if you say
he moved 2 hours away.
If you say it doesn't matter, he didn't want to play for the Nationals anymore. But if you say you didn't, I did want to be with you, but I just had to go. Well, now you're getting into Gordon Hayward territory, and nobody liked that either. Thank you, Utah.
Gordon didn't want to be here. He didn't want to be here.
I know, but he wrote the thank you like, it was hard for me to go.
He wrote the thank you.
Okay. He had someone write the thank you for him because I don't think he wrote that. His agent had some writer in the office write it for him.
It was phony. It was a slap in the face. I don't think Harper did that. People move all the time. That's not that big of a deal.
I think you're underselling that, but that is a side point.
They won the World Series without him, boy. They really suffered. That long, grueling downturn that they had, that lasted a day and a half. I mean, there's nothing there.
Rick says, I'm happy for Mitchell. Jiro says, I'm so happy for him. Ben, thrilled! Exclamation point.
Yeah, I'm not happy for him.
Well, I think what you said in the last segment is true. It's great that he won in the first round, and now he's going to lose in the second round.
Yeah, I don't care. I just want to be entertained. He could have lost yesterday. I was traveling, and when you're traveling,
you lose track of stuff.
Yeah, so you don't have opportunities. Just believe it or not, I was playing golf yesterday. Not in our community.
Clearly.
But if I would have been watching the game, and if I'm in town, I'm probably a high probability I'm watching the game.
And you would have been wildly entertained by his third quarter. He caught fire, and the whole thing changed. It went from down 10 at the half and struggling to all of a sudden they were clearly in charge.
But even if they had lost, I wouldn't have been any less entertained.
No, then we'd be in here talking about Paulo Banchero. He's 21 years old. He's in his second year. He just won a playoff series. He's amazing.
Yeah, pretty good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He may well end up being amazing. The first year they lost, but he's just barely started.
Right. Oh, yeah, that whole team is.
Yeah.
I think there's extra, animosity if somebody just doesn't want to be here and says it in so many different ways and then slams you out the door and said it was draining to be here. What makes you so different? Why was it so draining for you?
Because he was on social media a lot. And he had a lot of people who were willing to go at him, whatever he said.
Yeah, anonymously.
Yeah, I know. That's right. DJ and PK, it's 97.5 The Zone. We are joined right now by Steve Cleveland, former BYU basketball coach, and he joins us every week to talk hoops. Steve, good morning.
Good morning, guys.
The NBA playoffs are in full swing. Teams are getting sent home, and the defending champs have lost the first game at home. Surprise Minnesota beat Denver? Just kind of shaking it off because it's a long series?
I would say I was surprised just because of all the success that Denver's had, though if you watch the game, you're not surprised by their schemes and how well they played and everything that took place. But in my mind, I'm thinking that with Denver's experience, the success they've had, And so congrats to Minnesota. Unbelievable, the defensive effort. And, I think we'll probably talk more maybe about Edwards, and he might be our next Michael Jordan, but you had 43, 7, and 3, and Gobert had a huge influence. And their whole defensive scheme where Gordon basically didn't guard Gordon and left Gobert there to protect the rim, and Towns goes for 20, and then the 36-year-old Conley goes, 14, 4, and 18. I mean, it was a great team effort, and I think it got everybody's attention, certainly Denver, and I think we're in for a great series.
Did you just move Anthony Edwards over Kobe Bryant, the next Michael Jordan? You just summarily dismissed Kobe Bryant, didn't you?
No, well, listen, I probably did do that. But, I'm going to admit to my mistake. Yes, you're right. It's early morning.
Goodbye, Steph Curry. Goodbye, LeBron James. Goodbye, Kobe. Goodbye, 20 years of hoops. I'm going back 25 or 30.
We're talking about projected, where it could be maybe 5, 10 years from now. But he does look like he's the real deal.
Yeah.
And in my mind, 2 or 3 years from now, he might be the face of the NBA.
Right.
And he's the guy that's going to lead that charge. And no, that's somewhat disrespectful, almost sacrilegious that I would forget Kobe. But there it is. But yeah, you know what? It's just fun to see somebody different win. And I've never been a real big time Minnesota fan until I started. Conley and Gobert are guys we know here in Utah, and they're fitting in. Conley's amazing to me. I think he had like 17 or 18 assists in that game, and 36. What he's doing, they just have great chemistry, and it's fun to watch them. But Edwards definitely, he's not on Mount Rushmore yet, but he is a guy that you got to feel like he and Jokic are the two best players in the NBA.
I'm a little surprised they're doing with Gobert because he's just not much of a factor offensively, although he did bank in a shot from the high post. Yeah. That was weird that thing went in, but whatever. It was like, wow, 1968 called and wants that bank shot back. But that aside, that they're paying him over $40 million, and he's just not that – he's really – I mean, he obviously has a huge impact, but when you're paying him that much money, how do you get enough offense? And the way you do it is to have a guy on his rookie contract – in Anthony Edwards be dominant. Now, his salary is going to go way up next year because he goes into his second contract and he makes a lot more money. And so there's already speculation about who they might move because they don't want to be over the luxury tax forever. So even though this is just their second year with Gobert, and it feels like they're on the clock to me right now. I don't know how they can keep this group together. And maybe Anthony Edwards is just going to get better, and so it's not going to matter. And maybe that's how it'll work out. But right now, it feels like the future is definitely now for the Timberwolves, given their salaries.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. And, you ask yourself, can we find another 7-footer that can get 12 or 13 rebounds? And then Gobert has had a few evenings where he has scored, but he's just not doing a lot of scoring. But right now, in this place, in this time, they win this series, and they have some really difficult decisions to make. But I agree, that's a lot of money. And I'm not sure how they're going to – I don't know how they work around that in terms of what their luxury tax and all those things are going to be. But he does offer a rim protector, and nobody else in the NBA has two bigs like Minnesota has. And I think that Towns obviously is a guy that can guard and defend and has some size. And that's really – you look at Denver, and they – they just dominated through Jokic. Well, now all of a sudden, you're not guarding a guy and you're leaving another rim protector. And it doesn't matter if it's Jamal Murray or it's Porter or whoever's coming off. There's somebody there at the rim. And the schemes of Denver and what they do and how they run, they'll have a two-man game on the right side with Murray and Jokic. And then they have the opportunity to swing Porter through. It just seems to always be someone open when you play Denver. Depending on whatever the scheme is, there's always somebody that's getting a wide open shot. And, the shots that Murray made were not wide open. They were contested, but they were still winning shots. So we'll see how this plays out. But in this setting, in this day, in this moment, Minnesota right now, has got Denver thinking about what they have to do to make some changes to win this series.
I think I read where LeBron has played for something like 8 coaches, and 6 of them had been fired. How much is it on him? How much is it on the situation? Because it just seems like, what's the point of going to the Lakers and coaching? You're going to have 1 or 2 years, and if you don't win it all both years, you're out the door.
Yeah, listen, I've always liked LeBron when he was at Cleveland and they won that championship, but you continue to read these articles, and and I don't have firsthand information about LeBron and what that chemistry is like between ownership and teammates, but everything you read is really kind of pretty negative. And I don't know where the truth is and all of that, but the idea that we bring guys in, and I mean, they went to the Western Finals, didn't they? Didn't the Lakers 2 years ago? Yeah. So I mean, it's like, give us a break here. And if LeBron is a guy that's influencing that, and it sounds like he might be, so shame on him. I mean, he's done so much good for this league, but the idea that players now are going to always dictate who the coaches are going to be. I mean, I understand it if they under 500 and hadn't done what they needed to do, but they've actually had 2 pretty good years, and we're right in the thick of it. But that's the dark side of professional sports, and moves like that are made. But if LeBron had anything to do with that, man, I lose a lot of respect for him if he didn't. And I'm not judging right now because I don't know for sure, but it's just all the things are lined up that suggest that LeBron's making a lot of decisions in that team, and consequently, that's the thing, is that the players know that. The players know that, and so you wonder why they have a hard time winning big games, and everything is so forced. Everything is, and I thought that the Lakers were better defensively this year. They did some good things, and Reeves has been kind of a nice surprise for the team. But if that truly is the case, then it may be time for LeBron in the next year or so to leave the league, take on a different role. He has been the face of the NBA, and I'm not suggesting that these things are true, but it just seems like there's too many conversations, and a narrative always seems to be around LeBron. I don't know if that's jealousy or that the media just can't stand him. I mean, the media very seldom has good things to say about LeBron unless he's scoring 45 and winning. So he does take a little bit of heat. It's somewhere in between all of that. LeBron probably could be better, and media is always going to be who they're going to be, and that's what it is. But LeBron doesn't seem to be the most popular guy in the world, considering all he's done for the game and for that league over the last 20, 25 years.
Well, I think the media is divided between people who love him and want access to him, and people who know that he's got a lot of fans. So if they pick on him, in the hot take era, that can build your stature a little bit. There's probably a couple guys in the media who've done that, but that's just kind of the way things work now. So there's that. But I also think that LeBron was probably shaped by his early time in Cleveland when they didn't put a very good roster around him. I think he got to the point where not only does he doubt coaches, he doubts GMs. And he's so good, and you want him on his team. So if he's got an opinion, he's like, yeah, I don't know if I trust your opinion, but I sure as heck trust mine. So he gets say in roster creation and who the coach is. And I don't have any first-hand information either, but to me the numbers just get unmistakable because there are stories out of Miami that he didn't like Spoelstra, and Pat Riley said, well, I do, so Spoelstra's the guy, so figure it out. That was the one time, and Riley's just like, no, I run this show. Nobody else does, which if you've been around Pat Riley even a little bit, that's true.
Yeah.
That is, if that happened, that is how Pat Riley would have reacted.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, your insights are perfect on that. Yeah, I completely agree. And we're going to see what happens going forward. I'll be really interested to see who they hire. Has there been any hints or suggestions about who might take his place?
No, I think everybody's looking for somebody right now who really wants to be a head coach. Yeah. Because that's what you have to do to take that job. I mean, the money will be good, and you'll be an NBA coach, and maybe you'll get a second job off it because other people who've been fired from coaching LeBron have gotten other jobs. So maybe it furthers your career. Maybe it could be short-term pain, long-term gain. Even if you go in thinking, I get 1 or 2 years, and that's it.
Yeah. Well, there's nobody there that is coaching in that league or wants to be in that league that's not going to take it, even if it's their 1 or 2 years. I mean, it's an opportunity that what if things go well and things change, and I don't know what they're going to do in terms of payroll and what's going to happen in terms of personnel, because they don't have the depth defensively that they need, and certainly they don't have a lot of money to spare. But I mean, at the end of the day, they spend what they have, and there's a luxury tax. There's a luxury tax, but the roster is not perfect either, and that's going to take some changes. And how they address that, I don't know. But I just know they're really thin. They don't seem to have a lot of depth. When they go to the bench, there's not much going on. And every team in this league has dealt with injuries. You just have to. But I think their depth is such that they're not good enough right now. I mean, it's close. It's not like they weren't in those games with Denver and competitive. But, the one thing that I remember, just coaching throughout my life, is when I look back on teams, and every coach knows when they have done a really good job with culture and chemistry, and you just have that sense and feel of confidence, and guys play off of that each other. And I've never felt that way about LeBron since he's been in Los Angeles. It's always kind of been him and everybody else. And I got to believe that the culture problems that they have in this team between LeBron, coaching staff, and his peers and his teammates is not right. It's just not there. And we can make a great argument that they need depth and they need to change. They may not have enough money or have a desire to do that, and they'll just go with LeBron until he quits. But my thinking is it's never felt like anybody really has an opportunity. When they interview LeBron, win, lose, or draw almost every game. So sometimes it's just like it's him and the rest of the team, and that's not how you build a foundation of a good culture and chemistry in a team.
Looks like we've got staff coming together at BYU with Kevin Young. Comment on that, and particularly Chris Burgess going back to BYU. I'm
thrilled. I'm prejudiced a little bit because I know Chris and he's a friend, and I've watched his career, and I went to 3 or 4 Utah games this year, and he was always kind to give me tickets and to watch some of the big games that they played in the Pac-12. But I think that he's just had a relationship that he brings immediate validity to the staff. And I think that as a recruiter, developing bigs, lots of experience as a player in college and pros. And I just think it's a great get. And congratulations to him and to the coach for, deciding that he wanted Chris to be a part of this program. So I'm really happy about that. Really happy.
Gabe Ikeda goes into the transfer portal, and BYU fans are perfectly willing to connect the dots and put him at BYU, which may well happen, but I think when you go in the transfer portal, it's also the wild, wild, wild west out there, so who knows what other school might come calling, maybe he doesn't even know what all the options are when he goes in the portal. There may be more present themselves. But when you were on with us last week, I really enjoyed when you got into gritty coaching mode. You're like, the roster's pretty good. And you went through some of the guys, and I want a backup point guard, and they need a rim protector. And I'm like, look at Steve go. He's got 6 or 8 really good players, and he wants 2 more. Is Ikeda that guy as a rim protector? I mean, a little undersized for that. I mean, they could be going, and getting someone like when they got Harms from Purdue a few years ago, who's just 7'3", and he's going to stand there and swat everything. But Ikeda's super athletic. Maybe it makes him a little undersized. How would you be if, let's just say, for argument's sake, that shakes out and he follows Burgess?
I love that move. It's a different person. It's a different. It's a guy that, like you said, is a rim protector. And when you start looking at that roster, I mean, the Tiki put his name in the portal. I'm not sure what his status is. But when you have undersized post player in Fuchs Traore, who I feel kind of got stuck last year through an injury, didn't ever seem to have the confidence and didn't really seem real happy. And he's a great young man, and he did nothing to take away from the chemistry of that team. But I like Ikeda. I watched him play 3 or 4 times. And I didn't have any idea who he was until I saw him play in person. I think that's a good get. I mean, that's, you look at Hall, Saunders, Waterman, he's not a guy that has a real significant defensive presence. Trevin Nell, Dawson Baker, those are all kind of combo guards, wings. Kozlowski's young, and he's going to have an impact in that program. I'm not sure how quickly. I've never seen Isaac Davis play. Don't know anything really about him. But I'm just looking at that roster and thinking, Ikeda makes him better. he makes them better, and hopefully I'd love to see him get him. I think that defensively, you can't have enough guys at guard in that league, and you need athleticism. And so I think it'd be a great get. I hope it happens. I don't know anything else about it other than what I read in the newspapers, and that's usually half the story. So I would love to see him be a part of that. I just think his aggressiveness, his intensity, his quick hops can protect the rim even undersized, and can be a guy. You just can't have enough guys like that. And obviously the coaching staff's going to have to make some decisions. And, you don't want to have too many guys at the same position, but I think there's a place for him.
Steve, we appreciate it as always. Thanks for the time. We will talk to you again next week, get more on the playoffs and see how the recruiting portal or the transfer portal is shaking out.
All right. Sounds good, guys. Have a great day. Bye-bye.
Steve Cleveland, former BYU and Fresno State basketball coach, joining us right here on The Zone. DJ and PK, the former Jazzmen in the playoffs, and most of them advancing. We'll get to that next. Your reaction to that. Stay with us. DJ and PK, it's 97.5 The Zone.
Accessing.
This is Hans Olsen and Scotty G.
The general manager of the Utah NHL team, Bill Armstrong.
As things kind of settled and the night ended after that big fanfare, walk me through what you experienced and how it made you feel about the state of Utah and the fans in it.
It was amazing. We didn't know the turnout that was going to happen, and we're like, okay, we get fans. It's a great city. We've got a good young team coming in. We're in a good spot. Just getting off to playing with the kids, to see the overwhelming response in the building, that brought a tear to our eye. What people don't realize is, we get out cheered in our own building, and that hurts. When you're coming off the road and you're doing 7 games on the road, you're coming off and you come into your building and you get out cheered. And I got this warm feeling in my gut that that's not going to happen in Utah.
Catch Hans and Scotty weekdays from noon to 3 on 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.
The band of the day today is the Foo Fighters, and it's brought to you by Live Nation. For all the live concerts and events in 2024, check out livenation.com. We'll get a couple questions up on social media, Facebook, DJ and PK. On Twitter, David DJ James. You can go to our app, use the open mic, send us your take, and we will get to some of your reactions. Donovan Mitchell, former Jazzman, Cleveland Cavaliers, advancing in the playoffs. And also Rudy Gobert, Mike Conley, Nickeil Alexander-Walker, all
NWA, yeah.
All advancing. And now winning the first game in the second round. We'll get the reaction to that. But Donovan couldn't advance without eliminating Joe Ingles. And we can't have Joe Ingles on the show every week for 8 years without at least mentioning maybe he's got another year in him, PK. This could be it, though. Was that his last NBA game? He's 36. He turns 37 October 2nd.
I wouldn't say eliminating Joe Ingles. That's a little harsh.
I don't care about
eliminating his team.
He eliminated the Magic.
Yeah, I would think that would be it for Joe. The Olympics is this summer here, and he has an opportunity to be on that team at 36, approaching 37. He played 10 years in the NBA, didn't get started until he was 27. It's a fairy tale story, and he lived it. Had some great, great moments. I don't know what type of connection he made with the folks these last couple years, because it was one season in Milwaukee and one season in Orlando, and obviously 8 seasons here. But we know that he made the most unusual connection in this community, and he did it in a manner that was unique to him. And if he chooses, or it's chosen for him, to have that be it, what a run. What a phenomenal run that it ended up. And in his prime, he was a critical contributor, an important contributor to a very good team. Those are facts. He became an excellent three-point shooter. I believe he holds the record for most three-pointers made for this franchise.
And he could really run a pick and roll and pass the basketball on top of that.
He could do that from day one.
Mm-hmm.
But he made himself into a really good shooter from distance as he developed here. I think that was one of the reasons why he was kept early on, is his ability to lead an offense in a half-court setting, right? That became apparent just watching him play a little bit. I don't think you did. I know I didn't. Never really heard of him until he got here.
No
idea.
And,
thought he was an end-of-the-bench babysitter for Dante Exum.
He was kept not because of his shooting or his passing, but because of his Australianness.
Yeah, I'm not sure that's true. That was the line of thinking.
Yep.
I think that Quinn Snyder had a history with him overseas, at least to an extent, and they quickly picked him up when he got cut by the Clippers, and he's thinking that's it. His bride-to-be is flying over thinking she's going to be with him as part of an NBA team, and that wasn't the case. And then he comes here, never been here, knew nothing about the place. It's really incredible. It's just, if you're into stories, which a lot of people in my background are into stories, that's
pretty outrageous.
Yeah.
You don't make it at 27. You don't make it at 27 after the Clippers waive you. It just doesn't.
And you think you're going to make that team.
For a decade and 8 with one club.
Yeah.
That is, if he'd done that straight out of college, it would have been a successful career. Now, he's a foreign player. He didn't go the college route.
Did it straight out of Compton, it would have been a successful player.
And he ends up being a 41%, if this is it, he's a 41% career three-point shooter, and once you get to 40, you are in rarefied air. That gets the attention of every single NBA general manager.
That's the thing about it. He just wasn't an oddity. He wasn't a funny guy. And keep the locker room loose. I think that might have been overrated anyway, but that wasn't what it was about. It was actually being a serious contributor, and what made it so good is that one night he could be 35 as a starter, the next night he could be 7 as a bench guy, and it didn't matter. He had the ability to bounce back and forth. Some guys, they can't do that. They need to be able to be in a consistent role and knowing what it's going to be, what their PT is, when they're coming out, all that stuff. He had the flexibility to be able to go back and forth literally at all times. Here, we're talking about when he was at his best. And obviously, we love him because of, wanting to come on every week. And we'd been involved with numerous guys who said, yeah, and then they peter out. At no point did he ever peter out.
No, he came on. He was great. He was great on his basketball. He was great on his teammates' basketball. He was great on basketball around the league. And he was great on non-basketball stuff, just life stuff. And thoughtful and hilarious. It was great.
Yeah, I think that we should try to get him one more time before he goes back, assuming he's going back to Australia. I know he's changed his number or something. The other guy here, who's this guy over here now?
My name's an intern.
Yeah, I don't know.
Looks like a guy here we used to call Judas.
I mean, he was on the show.
Mr. Kinahan, Mr. James.
Joe Ingles has been on the show, I think, more than Yak here.
And more recently.
Yeah. What a run. And the thing about it is that he'll always have a warm welcome. Now, he has a distance here, so I don't know how much he's going to be able to get back if he's living on the other side of the world. It's harder to do, obviously. But when he chooses to come back and he's put on the scoreboard on the pitcher, he's going to get a standing O.
Everybody go nuts. Yeah.
And that's what we were talking about earlier with Mitchell. He didn't want to be here. Joe loved it here. His wife said to us, this place will always have a piece of our hearts. What more can you say? What a story.
Orlando's going to have, they're shedding $30 million worth of salary with a couple expiring contracts. Now they may bring those guys back, but Fultz and Harris are free agents now. And Ingles and Wagner, they can drop another $20 million. So it's a team option. We'll see what they decide to do with Joe. But they can clear $50 million worth of cap room and go get people. So we'll see what they do. But if this is it, awesome for Joe. DJ and PK were brought to you in part by Minky Couture. And a reminder, join Hans and Scotty at Minky Couture today from noon to 3. They're broadcasting live in Layton. Make Mother's Day easy and get the best gift ever, a blanket from Minky Couture. Mom will love it. Shop online at minkycouture.com or at any Minky Couture store. All right. Warm feelings for Donovan. What about the same for Mitchell and for Gobert? And Yak, what have you got?
Got some transfer portal news involving a former Ute.
Really? We will get to that on the other side of this break. DJ and PK, it's 97.5 The Zone. DJ and PK, it's 97.5 The Zone. We're brought to you in part by Teton Wealth, and Ethan Millard with Teton Wealth will be live in studio with JJ and Alex Wednesday to help you with your retirement plan. Tune in or visit retireteton.com. All right, Yak, what do you have in the transfer portal?
Well, Mr. Triple-Double himself, Davon Smith, is crossing the country as he's headed to St. John's. He announced that commitment this morning on his Instagram page.
That'd be crossing the country again.
Yeah, exactly. Going from Georgia Tech to Utah, then back to St. John's.
His fourth school in 5 years because he did a year at Mississippi State before he did the 2 at Georgia Tech, 1 at Utah, now on to St. John's. Welcome to college basketball in 2024, PK. 4 schools, 5 years. And away we go. And away he goes.
How about that?
Now, how will they replace him? Well, a story for another day. But Davon Smith to St. John's. There you go. Question of the morning. Donovan Mitchell's team advances to the second round. Are you happy? Are you glad? Are you sad? And it seems right now like it's about 40-40-20. 40% happy, 40% sad, and 20% trying to convince us they don't care.
I don't care anymore. Wow, wow,
wow. I almost recognized that. No mo.
Maybe they don't care. Some don't. I mean, I don't care whether he won or lost, but I'm glad that he's playing. I find him entertaining. He's capable of giving you some wow moments. And if not wow moments, he's capable of giving you just thinking, man, that was pretty awesome watching that. You know, a wow moment when he had that dunk put back against Houston. That was a wow moment and all that stuff. He's a smaller guy, and that was fun to see. But just his ability to put the ball in the basket and do some spectacular things. You may not be wowed by it, but certainly you're impressed. And for me, I use the word entertain because that's what sports is to me. It's a form of entertainment. And I find him to be, when he's got it going, entertaining. And, you know, I think he does burn with a desire to win it all. I really believe that. And so I think that most of the time when you get to the second round in each conference, both teams are pretty good. And so you have some premier players to be able to watch at a time when it really, really matters. I mean, watching that Game 7 with, I guess it was a Game 6, the Sixers and Knicks. That's stuff that you just don't see in the regular season. I was traveling that day, but I got in front of a television for about the last 9-10 minutes of the fourth quarter. And the intensity sitting there, I was in an outdoor restaurant eating a burger, getting ready to go have some ice cream. And so they had some TVs, you know, one of those things where the inside, outside. And I could see the TV was right in front of me. And you don't see that type of intensity in the regular season. It's the good and bad of the NBA. The bad is too many games. They just go through it. And I don't even know that I blame the players anymore. But in the postseason, if there was a brick wall and it required you to run through it to win, everybody would have done it.
Yeah, the difference between postseason and regular season. In the postseason, you may see somebody have a big game and be intense. But in the playoffs, the stars on both teams are intense. All 10 guys on both teams are intense. Both benches are intense. And whether the home crowd is winning or losing, they are intense. And you just don't get that across the board. And it's not going to happen.
No. But
you
will
may
have
see somebody going for 50 having a game and think that was a pretty good show. That guy was really focused and had a heck of a night. You might get that, but it's not everybody.
And 50 in the postseason is more impressive than 50 in the regular season. It's why Ainge comes on and says, I don't care about the regular season stats. He said it now. He's given 2 end-of-season press conferences since Ryan Smith's taken over.
He's been pretty clear. There's no reason to argue with him on this.
And
you do too, Danny.
He's emphasized it both times. And I agree with him 100%.
Because he knows what happens in a regular season can be fool's gold as soon as the emotion, the intensity, and the focus ratchets up in the playoffs.
Yes. And I believe Mitchell burns with a desire to get, in this case, the Eastern Conference Finals. And that'll rub off. If your best player is going to be like that, you have no choice but to be like that. And if you're not, well, you're not worth anything. And so that's going to be a lot of fun to watch. And you got Sam Merrill there as a local guy, make good and all that stuff. And Niang's on that team too.
Yep.
And everybody liked him when he was here. So it's really fun. And this is two teams in Cleveland and Boston that Ainge largely has put together.
See what you did there. Nice.
Well, it's the truth.
Well, they had a few draft picks along the way, but
oh yeah, but the draft picks were obvious. But he's given both teams their best player. Without Danny Ray, do they have Tatum? Do they have Mitchell? I don't know. But I do know with Danny Ray, both teams have their best players because of Danny Ray.
just test driving Danny Ray here to see if it gets a reaction.
It's just, I can't call a 65-year-old man Danny.
Sure you can.
Well, if you're going to give him a boy's name, I think Danny Ray's even cooler.
Danny Ray.
Yeah. Danny Ray gave both teams their best player. That's inarguable.
The Ainge series.
Yeah.
It starts tomorrow in Boston, game 1.
Right. So, from that respect, I'm glad that he advanced. And if you don't like Mitchell, well, this is the perfect situation because they're not going to win the title. He's going to be disappointed.
He bought himself a little more time with that win over Orlando.
They should beat Orlando. Where they are on the timeline and where Orlando is on the timeline, you should beat Orlando.
Your best player has a lot of playoff experience. Their best player is 21 years old and in his first playoff.
Right. Orlando's just getting it together after being down for a number of years. Good for them. And they gave Mosley the coach. They extended him, I read somewhere along the line. And so they hope to have good days ahead, and it does look promising that they would have the opportunity. You never know what's going to happen, injuries or what have you. But right now, it looks like, all right, they just got started. I mean, we said the same thing about Memphis, and then John Morant goes off and gets hurt and does his other stuff off the floor, and they suck again. I think they'll be back, but this year didn't turn out nothing even close to what they wanted. So you can't, just because you're young doesn't mean you're going to get better as a group and be better because so many things can get in the way. But right now the future does look pretty good for them. And so from that perspective, Cleveland is much more in the win now mode with the potential of being forced to trade Mitchell here either this summer or at the trade deadline. They have to win. The only way that they're going to be able to retain him is to have this phenomenal run, and he gets all caught up in it and wants to stay.
And neither of us think that's going to happen, but if you're going to create a scenario, that seems to be the only one that has a chance.
Yeah, I think they can beat any team that's remaining in the playoffs 4 times, but I don't think they can do it 3 more times, if that makes sense.
It does.
Yeah.
I don't think they'll beat the Celtics 4 times. But
I think they could.
Porzingis getting hurt closes the gap. I mean, the gap between the Celtics and the rest of the conference with their team and their talent and their playoff experience.
If you're counting on Porzingis to be a difference maker for you, you're going to lose.
The Celtics should come out of the East. Now, they have Porzingis, so they have all this size, so now he's gone for a while.
But he's always gone.
I know. But even without him, the Celtics should beat the Cavaliers.
Right. Do you think that they went in planning, we're going to have this guy for 82, we're going to have him for 4 series? I don't care that he's hurt. He's always hurt.
I think they were hoping that they'd have him for 2 months in the playoffs.
Hope is delayed disappointment. If you're hoping in the pro ranks, you're losing.
Well, they may well.
You got to know what the situation is, and you got to be prepared for it. If you have to hope, you're not winning. Jordan didn't hope on anything.
Okay, way to take the ultimate example. Nowitzki might have.
I don't think hope. Yeah. I'm not big on hope. What's hope got you? You need to be prepared for all scenarios. And if the Celtics traded for an acquired Porzingis and planned on him being there for all the time, then they're stupid. So I don't care whether he's hurt or not. Whoop-de-freaking-do. He's always hurt. Tell me something I didn't know, which in my case is very difficult to do when it comes to sports. I understand that.
You're genius. Got more people reacting to Donovan Mitchell here. It really blows that Donovan Mitchell won last night.
Why?
Because Gobert, here's the funny thing is he's answering the Gobert question, which we're going to get to in our next segment. Minnesota goes up 1-0 on Denver. We're all rooting for Rudy Gobert and friends, right? I mean, they got 3 ex-Jazz men on the roster. And John B says, yes, sir. And it really blows the GM one last night. It just comes down to one guy said, I want to win the title here. And the other guy told management, I want out. And then celebrated wildly after he left and, said he was drained. It was draining.
He ran around on the golf course because he was traded to Cleveland. That's the first time in the history of Cleveland sports, outside of Bernie Kosar, that anybody ran around and was thrilled to be traded to Cleveland.
Bernie Kosar, nice call.
Not knowing, as recently as 10 seconds ago, that I would be dropping the name Bernie Kosar. Yes. He ran around in the golf. It wasn't New York. It's not New York. It's Cleveland. It's not New York. It's Cleveland. And he ran around on a golf course. How about you hit your ball so you could expedite the pace of play? Running around on a golf course just slows it down for the group behind you. Get going. Move along. Played yesterday with some guy in his 70s. I used to be a 2 handicap. Shut up. What are you telling me that for? I don't care. I used to do So for the rest of the time, I referred to him to my wife as Deuce. What are you trying to impress me for?
I can't wait to golf with you the next time and drop that in the middle of a round after you forgot about it. I used to be a 2 handicap.
All right, Deuce. Great. 2 things bugged me I took a little bit of a long weekend. I went to the Diamondbacks game, and Ryan Hatch got me good seats. He's Grand Poobah down there. And
he didn't just get you good seats.
Well, he got me valet parking.
There we go.
But it took me like 30 minutes to find out where the freak to go. I was starting to get annoyed. I had to ask 5 different times. Guy behind me. This guy has thrown 32 pitches, and we're only 2 batters in, and he's already thrown 32 pitches this inning. I want to say, dude, shut up. It's cumulative total. It's not per inning. He thought that.
Oh, it said 32 pitches on the scoreboard?
Yeah, 15 strikes and whatever, 17 balls or vice. Yeah, they keep a running total. He kept thinking it was reset every inning.
Oh, geez.
There's 47 pitches, and he's only faced 4 batters. You fool. It starts from pitch 1, and then every pitch is added a number. They do not restart it per inning. Driving me nuts.
The whole point is to know in the 5th inning how many pitches the guy's thrown and whether he's coming out now or in the 6th.
Right. He kept thinking that it was per inning. Because I realize they keep balls and strikes per inning, but that's called the count. And they reset that, and they reset the number of outs per inning, but not the total number of pitchers. And then this other guy with his, I used to be a 2 handicap. I used to be able to drive this green.
Two guys who ruined your long weekend.
A couple of things came into my mind on Eustace, but I can't say them here.
DJ and PK, it's 97.5 The Zone. Lottie reacting to the Minnesota Timber Jazz. Quarter of the roster, well, to 20% of the roster. 3 guys advancing to the second round and beating Denver. Man, if you can beat Denver, you can win it all, PK. 2 series down, 2 to go. Of course, I'm getting ahead of myself by about 3 wins. Your reaction to that next. Stay with us.
This is Jake Scott and Ben Anderson.
You ready to change your tune on Jalen Brunson?
No.
He just had one of the most historic series we've ever seen.
Yeah, whatever.
Probably the greatest series in Knicks history since Willis Reed or Walt Frazier.
With the greatest ever stuff. Jalen Brunson ain't there yet.
Jalen Brunson's doing all the stuff. I mean, he's beating MVPs, he's beating them on their home floor. He's playing out of his mind. So I'm going to take my victory lap on my Jalen Brunson is as good as any Knicks player I've ever seen in my lifetime because I did not get to watch Walt Frazier play.
You enjoy it. When they run up against a good team, we'll see how it goes.
What's fun about this Knicks team right now is they are not loaded with superstars. This is a really well-built team with really smart trades who really identify with what their head coach is asking and have mirrored that culture. It's awesome. The way they built this team is how everyone should want their team built. So what they're doing is really cool. And Jalen Brunson's leading it. He's been fun to watch.
Hear Jake Scott and Ben Anderson every day from 10 to noon on 97.5 The KSL Sports Zone.
Nominate the youth sports volunteer that you know for the Hercules Hero of the Week. Submit your nomination at kslsports.com/contest and listen every Thursday afternoon to JJ and Alex for the winner. Help us celebrate the efforts of those volunteers making an impact with the Hercules Hero of the Week, sponsored by Hercules Credit Union and Beehive Meals.
DJ PK, it's 97.5 The Zone, and the question confronting us, Minnesota up 1-0 on Denver. We're all rooting for Rudy Gobert and friends, right? Rudy wanted to be here. He wanted to win a title here. He didn't ask to be traded, want to be traded, leave as a free agent. He was traded, and he just had to deal with it.
I simply ask you, who had the bigger feud? Gobert and Mitchell, or Kendrick Lamar and Drake?
Ah!
The bigger feud?
Yes.
Okay, well, good question.
Who had the bigger feud? These two basketball players or these two rappers? I don't understand either of them, to tell you the truth. I wish all four brothers could get along.
Shane says, I'm glad to see Rudy and Mike playing well in the playoffs. And Steve says, don't forget Nickeil Walker-Alexander.
Right, don't forget NWA.
He was a jazz man.
He was. Once a jazz man, always a jazz man.
Cheering for those three.
Which is so stupid. I never bought that. That's just not true. Ben Hanlogden is not a jazz man. James Donaldson is not a jazz man.
James Donaldson. Joe Johnson.
William Cunningham is not a jazz man.
People who played, how about Danny Manning is not a jazz man. John Starks, not a jazz man.
Right. That's a dumb phrase.
2 years at the end of the career doesn't make a jazz
Davion
man.
Smith. Once a Ute, always Ute? No.
Once passing through town.
He didn't even play a full season.
Always passing through town.
So no. But it's a shame those two couldn't have gotten along. And how about Gobert going on basically saying, oh my gosh, I've never been on a team that loves one another as much as this team. But you weren't in the locker room. If you were, you knew Mitchell and Gobert got along just great. If you tell us something over and over again, trying to convince us of the truth, immediately I don't believe it. Because truth stands on its own. You don't have to try to convince someone of the truth. The truth is just that. And you don't bother with folks who don't want to believe the truth. If you don't want to believe it, don't believe it. But they sat on the podium and told us over and over and over and on the stage over and over again, oh, they get along, they get along, they get along, they get along. No, they don't. Stop it. It's not true. It never was true. I don't believe you.
I quote tweeted that or retweeted that comment and sent that out into social media. And the guys, David, stop patting yourself on the back. Bleep head. Nobody gives a bleep what you think. Why are people so invested in they still got along? It's over. They're gone. Can't you see it for what it is now? Like in the moment, I get, well, that would that would make it harder to win in the playoffs, maybe to make it impossible to win in the playoffs. I'm going to deny that would happen. But now the both guys have moved on. It's super clear. Why be so worked up about it now?
Now?
I
don't know that I have a good answer for that.
The depths, all I could think is the depths of Jazz fandom run very deep.
Well, I agree on that. That's for sure. And our guys, boy, they're wholesome. They're this, they're that. They're basketball players.
Why would they be different than 29 other teams in the league?
But we heard that, and they got along. We seem like they get along so well. And they lost. And they didn't get along so well.
The team dinners are great, but you lost.
Right. That's hokey stuff. And you try to project it to the image. Okay. Family on 3. Yeah. I'm going to Arkansas. I'm going to wherever. I mean, and I don't buy into that. But fans like that. They want to feel connected. And our guys, we got something special. Now, you people over there, man, you're a train wreck, but not over here.
Our guys.
Yeah.
We do it the right way.
Yeah. I get it. And let them have their thoughts, if that's what they want. If that makes them feel warm and cozy on a snowy May 6th day, then so be it.
On a snowy 6 de Mayo?
Yeah, so whatever. But it's clear that there were issues there.
In your final show before you go off to play 36 holes each and every day.
Next week?
We should do a top 10 list.
Show is.
A top 10, maybe you do, maybe you don't. Top 10 list of PK sayings, and I would put that on there.
What?
Truth stands on its own.
It do.
I mean, seriously, you have said that 100 times, 200 times. I don't even know how many times you said that. But you get into it and you're like, okay, I know where this goes. Truth isn't going to be followed by any other words. You're going to go, truth, pause for dramatic effect, stands on its own. Whenever someone is just sending out the old BS burger out there, just loading up with lies, truth stands on its own.
But that doesn't mean I can't learn something from someone. But if you start telling me the same thing 5, 6, 7 times,
right,
then my antenna goes up.
Especially when there's a ton of smoke and you say there is no fire.
Yeah.
Well, maybe it's not smoke. Maybe it's dust, right? The farmer's tilling his field in the distance and you're driving down the interstate. Maybe it's not smoke. But I get closer and you tell me 20 times it's not smoke. Yeah.
Right.
It's fire.
They protested too much for me to believe it. And that's what it ended up being. And so they didn't get along. Guys that are 1,000 times better than them didn't go along. And you're going to go to the classic example.
There's so many classic
But you're going to go to the classic example.
The Oakland A's of the 70s.
No, you know
literally
what it is.
fighting in the locker room.
You won't go to it now because I put you on the spot. But you know you're going to go your wheelhouse, Shaq and Kobe. And
they didn't get along, and they won a lot of championships. Just dominated the league for 3 years.
And these guys, they didn't. And it's unfortunate, but that's the way it goes. And I didn't really care if they got along, but did they want to play together? They should have just said, yeah, they don't get along, but we're here to play. You got a job, you got a job. Who cares if I like you or not?
15 guys can't be best friends. It doesn't work that way.
Yeah.
And the more you win, the better you get along.
Right. And they chose to break it up. All right. That's over with. It's 2 years ago today that I came in and said...
because it was Cinco de Mayo.
Yes.
So hence you were told. So it had to be 6 de Mayo that you came in and said it.
It was the day after. Yes. And it was... And on Cinco de Mayo, I saw someone, and this person told me they're going to blow it up. And turned out that's exactly what happened. So 2 years ago today. And life goes on, man. And now you got these dudes here, and it's up to this management to rebuild this thing. And I would love to see Gobert and Mitchell be in the final. That would be so much fun. But I also want to see Minnesota for what Minnesota stands for. Because Minnesota is you, Jazz fans. They are you. They are out of the way. Stars don't stay there. And a few years back, they looked like they were a mess. And here they are. They're a great team. They've got a big-time superstar right now and in the making. 22 years old with this young fella. Wow. Anthony Edwards, obviously.
He is so good that he makes a basketball lifer like Steve Cleveland forget that Kobe and Steph and LeBron were running around winning 13 titles last 20 years.
Yeah, I don't put LeBron in that category because he's a different player.
Too big?
Yeah. To me, Anthony Edwards has the opportunity to be the next Kobe who was the next Jordan. And maybe Kobe didn't quite approximate, although he came awfully close.
No one is going to approximate Michael Jordan. So if you're going to get close,
I think he did approximate him.
Kobe is as close as you're going to get. And honestly, I don't think anyone's really going to approximate Kobe. So if you're 90% of Kobe, I'll be super impressed.
I think they can. I think Jordan set the standard at that position. I think Kobe came closer to getting to Jordan than the second place finisher in the Kentucky Derby came to Mystic Dan. Yes.
If you want to go close, go to the NASCAR race. 1/1000th of a second.
I didn't watch it, nor do I care.
You don't have to watch it.
I don't care. I don't even know it. I mean,
you do. I just told you.
I don't. I have no clue who it is, and I will in and out. I will forget it within 5 seconds from now. I watched one sporting event from start to finish this weekend.
2 minutes of the Derby?
And it was, yes. And I was on a golf course. And I said, wait a second. Put it on the phone and watch that baby, and was thrilled beyond belief. And I do it in a spiritual sense because I always think of my parents, particularly my father. It was a big, big deal every year, always. And so out of respect for him and somewhat not as much interest as I used to have, but enough interest to watch it, and I think of him during that entire time.
But you don't have to have a lot of interest to watch 6 minutes of horse racing every year.
No, but I knew everything about it going up to it. It just wasn't. It wasn't about the.
Oh, this year you did?
No.
Oh,
I'm talking about before.
Yeah. When your dad was alive, I get that.
No. Now I looked the week of to see who do they like.
Who's the horse? Who's
so
the
I
favorites,
looked. I saw some of the names. I read some stuff, but 25 years ago, I would have known about it for a month ahead of time because it was a big deal.
Right. Bigger deal. You'd be talking to him on the phone.
Yeah. And so, and I sat there and watched it with him many times over as a kid in New Jersey and in Arizona. And here, I was golfing Saturday and I watched it and it was fun. And it's one of these things I want to do at some point in my life is to go
to Louisville for the big day.
My mentor, my brother-in-law who's deceased now, he had gone, and he had told me he had gone several times.
Just the Derby? You got to do all three of them?
Just that one. If I'm in the area to do the others, I would certainly take advantage of that, but I wouldn't necessarily go specifically, I don't think.
You can plan your Jersey trip and hit Belmont, so really it just comes down to then do you want to finish it or not?
Yeah, we'll see what's down the line. But that's one of the things that I would like to check off. I've been there to Churchill, but it wasn't on Derby Day. I would like to go on Derby Day. I've been in the facility and checked it all out and all that stuff. That was for sure. I've already done that. But I would like to see that.
Are you RV guy?
No.
Nope, not doing that. It's a line you will not cross. Because the people who do that kind of stuff, they're just on the road, and in 1 year they would hit all three of them.
No, I'm called Marriott guy. That's what I am.
There you go.
And any form of, there are multiple Marriott options. Any of them will do. I don't need the JW. The Fairfield is just as fine.
Just in the Marriott family.
Yes, and
not the literal Marriott.
Timing was beautiful for me because I used to do a lot of travel back with my watchdog days, and then when I quit to be more of an electronic guy, that was the same time that the economy went in the tank. So they eluded me for life because they went
Boom,
through and
there
looked,
it is.
and I would have not been able to maintain
your married status.
Yeah, because I wouldn't have. I don't travel for work at nearly as much as I used to.
Those were going to be the good old days, but you cashed in.
But they saw it right around that time, and so I got titaniumed for life.
Titanium.
Yeah. And they send me
Do
these
they
big-
play trumpets when you walk into the lobby?
Oh,
How does
well,
that work?
They practically come around the corner and hug you because they've got it all in the computer.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Mr. Titanium.
Oh, yeah, and they give you these upgrades and all
You
this
haven't told
stuff.
this story in a while. We got it just a quick 30 seconds. Tell them about the time somebody's going to stiff you at the counter and you told them to make a career decision.
Oh, yes.
That was
I
a
was in
great
Steamboat
story.
Springs, Colorado. It was for a youth competition, and if you booked the hotel, they told you up front that you had to stay the whole time. Well, if your team lost the first, second round, whatever it might be, you would naturally check out and go home. And so that's what happened. So I was going to leave 2 days earlier, and I went to check out, and I said that I'm checking out now. I'm canceling the next night. So you can't do that. This was part of the agreement. And I said, well, here's what you do. I want you to look in your files, and this is the height of my watchdog days. So I'm traveling constantly. And with Majerus, where March, I was basically on the road the entire time because he was having such deep tournament runs, right? And I said, check in your computer and see how many times I stay here. And if you don't check me out, I will go to Hilton and be a frequent member for them. You're checked out, Mr. Kinahan.
That's what titanium gets you right there.
Well, the guy was smart.
Yeah, right?
I'm not going to quibble over 2 nights when he's staying 50-plus during the year. That doesn't make any sense. So that's part of the advantage. And I get the late checkout, too. I can stay till 4 o'clock in the afternoon if I want.
Nice. Good for you. DJ PK coming up in the 9 o'clock hour, one of our favorites. We're talking college football with David Smoak, host of 365 Sports in Waco. He covers the Baylor Bears. If you don't remember him, if you haven't heard him, he is going to come through your radio with so much energy. And not just that, but he does know a lot about Baylor as well. DJ PK, it's 97.5 The Zone. He's coming up in about 15 minutes.
Ladies and gentlemen, may I present...
This is JJ and Alex.
Tim Twentyman, DetroitLions.com. Let's chat a little bit about Sione Vaki.
And I think Brad Holmes saw that and saw a kid with his skill set, his body type, and now Vaki can be a core special teamer right away. And I think that's how he's going to get on the field right away. Obviously, at running back, Jahmyr Gibbs and David Montgomery are a really great duo here. But I think where Vaki can step in right away is I wouldn't be surprised if he's returning kicks in rookie minicamp and early in training camp and then be a core special teamer. I think they got a terrific athlete, one of the most versatile players, and they really like that pick. Brad said that was one of the guys he woke up going into Saturday saying, I really want that guy, and moved up to get him, and that's where I see his role early.
Catch JJ and Alex afternoons from 3 to 6. Presented by G2G Bars on 97.5 The KSL Sports Zone. Your Rocky Mountain Chevy dealer's strong play of the weekend.
To trigger in. He's got it, lobs it into Towns at the free throw line. Looked like he got fouled. Now to Rudy, who pushes it up at the elbow. Off glass and in for Rudy Gobert.
There's a Chevy Strong play of the game. Rudy Gobert Saturday night banking in a jumper from the free throw line. Nice. Know that play this afternoon. Alex and JJ will call for it, and you can win fabulous prizes. So we've decided that largely, it looks like 100% of the people, well, that's not true. 90% of the people want the Wolves to win because they feel good for Rudy. And with Donovan, it's about 50-50. Rooting for Cleveland or
Yeah, I think
Scorn's
Conley's
fans.
in there, too.
Yes.
I think there's multiple reasons.
The postman here says, I want the Cavs and the Wolves to crumble so bad. He doesn't want any former Jazz guys.
The Wolves? See, but I think that it's...
I don't get rooting against the Wolves.
represent you.
They are another not glamorous, colder market. I mean, they're not that small, but they're bigger. But still,
way colder.
Nobody wants to go there. No one is. They got 30 years in the league and 0 people to beat down the doors to go there.
So what you're saying is it's too crowded, nobody wants to go there?
Thanks, Yogi. It's too crowded. Nobody goes there anymore. Well, then why is it crowded?
I like what it represents. And I think, in a weird way, everything is built off TV ratings. And the TV ratings probably wouldn't be as good, but I think it's great for the league.
The league is so far beyond TV ratings. That is such a 1985 Bird and Magic are trying to save the league storyline. I just read a story. They have two national packages.
Whoa.
They're getting 3 national packages. They're going to get like 7.
You were so big about the casual fan.
Yeah, I don't care about him. The league's...
Yuck. Wait, back me up. Didn't we have this argument a while back?
Hold on. This is two different things. You're conflating two different things. I know.
No.
Yes. The league cares about casual fans. I get that. And they want to grow it and all that.
But and casual fans are measured by TV ratings.
They are. They show up for Jordan and they show up for
Didn't we have
Kobe.
this discussion about how we have to appeal to the casual? Now he doesn't care about the casual.
Now screw the casuals.
Because did you read the TV deal they're getting?
NFL's king right now because the casual fan gives a you-know-what.
Yeah, right, because the casual fans turned hardcore, right?
Yes.
They're about to get $7 billion for their TV ratings. So worrying about whether...
But they want $8 billion.
Right, but worrying about whether they do, and they will keep chasing casual fans. I totally get that. But worrying about the future of the NBA based on the NBA Finals...
I don't think it's worrying about it.
I think people just say, NBA ratings are down, and they're like, they're getting $7 billion. Leave it alone. They're making so much money.
I think it's great for the competitive balance in a league that is top-heavy, and these stars can determine where they want to go.
I totally agree with you. As a fan, it is much more fun to watch a 30 or 32-team league where 5 or 10 teams can win a title as opposed to going into a season thinking 2 or 3 can. I mean, I really don't think 32 NFL teams can win the Super Bowl next year. But I could sit around and make a case.
Maybe 2 years from now.
Oh yeah, that's
part of the deal.
One of the 10 things that on your final day that will go is let's see. So truth stands on its own. There are no losers in pro sports, and in pro sports, in 3 years, everything changes. Good teams are bad, and bad teams are good.
It can, but it's harder to do in basketball.
Sure.
And I would also add on that final day.
Yeah.
That God doesn't call the equipped.
This is going to be good.
He equips the called.
Yes.
Yes, I would add that.
That's 4. We need 6 more for your top 10.
Right. So just put that on there. And I would also add some of my dearest friends are Mormons.
5 down, 5 to go. Okay, we need 10 sports phrases and then 10...
Oh, you didn't say that.
Playing radio phases. Yeah. Phrases.
Truth. What's the one?
Truth stands on its own.
That's not a sports phrase.
That is a gray area, I'll grant you. It can be sports or non-sports. You're right. Yeah.
See, I like to appeal to the casual listener.
Now that I'm 100% in favor of.
And so it's not just about bringing in.
I'm 100%. Now we're talking.
The ones who can break down the pick and roll.
Agreed.
That's
not enough.
I'm not a breaker
there.
or downer of the pick and roller.
Yeah, you could be in a pinch, but.
That's not me. I'm the casual. I'm the guy who is entertained by sports and doesn't view it as life or death.
We have one I'm going to read now because I know people are getting to work at 9. They're not going to be here at 10, but we're going to bring it back at the end of the show. This is a very intriguing take. Corey, who I've worked with in the media before, Corey says, Donovan Mitchell's team advances the second round. Are you happy, glad, or sad? I'm sad, but not because of ill will towards Donovan. More because I want the Cavs to blow it up and start a rebuild because then their picks that are now Jazz-owned picks, they would be better.
I don't think they would start a rebuild, though.
They're too good with the rest of the roster.
Yeah.
They're not going to fall that far.
Well, yeah, because if you trade
Unless
Mitchell,
something else
you're
happens.
going to get stuff back.
You trade Mitchell, you get stuff back.
I mean, look at what the Jazz did. They blew it up and they got marketing back. He's a player.
Right.
Right, he came from Cleveland, right?
They could get some good player from, yeah. They could get some good player from New York and.
Oh, I don't see Cleveland blowing it up in the immediacy.
So in Corey's case, what they need is for Donovan to win, so that Cleveland doesn't trade him. They just play it out to the end and see how see how far they can go with him. And then if he walks, they still have a
this
decent
time next year.
Yeah, they still have a decent core. And then you'd need someone to, get injured, or someone else would walk because he walked when their deal was up. It'll take multiple things to go wrong for Cleveland to fall that far.
Precisely, yes.
So maybe they do actually, Corey, maybe they need to win this year so that Cleveland is like, it would be worth it to take one more shot. I don't think it would, but maybe they can talk themselves into that. All right, when we come back, we switch gears. College football. The always entertaining David Smoak covers the Baylor Bears, host of 365 Sports in Waco, Texas. We're talking Big 12 football next. Stay with us. DJ and PK. Don't miss your chance to win big every week on The Zone. This week on Win Ticket Wednesday, you can win a pair of tickets to see Neil Young at the Utah First Credit Union Amphitheater on July 29th. Listen to The Zone all day Wednesday for your chance to win. We are joined once again by David Smoak, host of 365 Sports in Waco, Texas, covering the Baylor Bears. Our spring football tour is underway. David, good morning.
Good morning, PK, DK, in Salt Lake City. How you been?
Great.
Good. I don't know how big a deal Disneyland is in Texas. You're halfway between Disney World and Disneyland. You got plenty going on. But here it's a big deal, and I grew up in San Diego where we were just 2 hours away. And there was something about going there to ride those roller coasters. I mean, the Matterhorn was original. They got a bunch of them. And I feel like watching Baylor is riding the Matterhorn or one of their roller coasters there. Because one year Baylor's in the conference title game, and the next year Baylor's 3-9, and the next year Baylor wins 10 games, and the next year Baylor's 4-8. The ups and downs are outrageous, and I'm just curious: is the roller coaster headed up or down? Because with the transfer portal, we can barely keep track of our own guys. We certainly can't tell if somebody's like, oh, that's a pretty good team, except they got no D line, and everybody's going to run the ball 7 yards on every snap. So what's the deal?
Yeah, you're right. Yeah, it's been that way. So after the Art Brian, they went with Matt Rule 1-11, 7-6. What was it? I think 10-3, and then whatever it was, 2-7, and then they were the best football season they've ever had in the history of the school with Dave Aranda's second year, and then 2022 was just a mess. They started well, had wins at Tech and also in Norman, and then they just kind of blew a tire. And then last year it was bad. And I don't know if, I like to be realistic. I've always tried to do that. I don't have any sunshine glasses. I think this year's going to be a struggle. I can't imagine they won't be better, because they were terrible last year in a lot of ways across the board. They couldn't run the ball. They were in a wide zone. You have to run the ball. They couldn't put pressure on the quarterback. They didn't have the ability to score. They couldn't stop anybody. They had a couple of late-game meltdowns. So, of course, what you see are coaching changes, and now they're going to go more to that, open, air raid, spread type offense. I think that has to help. The question is, can they protect the quarterback? Because it doesn't matter what you have. They're very light on the defensive line. I say this, and I said this, I believe to you guys last year, that I thought maybe a 7-8 win team was probably the ceiling, and I think everyone was like, oh my God. No, I really thought, and I say the same thing this year, that's not the ceiling. To me, find a way to get to 6 wins. Get this thing back on the tracks, get it off the rails. Because if you don't, then you're going to go through a transition of a coaching change again. Because Dave Aranda got a 9 lives last year, and I'm happy for him. And he made some what seemed like pretty good changes. But they play Utah on the road in week number 2. They play Air Force in week 3. That you don't have much time to prepare for what they do, and they're good. So. Guys, I'm not here to pump any sunshine, because that's not what I do. I think this is going to be a team that has to scratch and claw to get to a bowl game.
They let Jeff Grimes go, and then they bring in the coordinator from Texas State, and you talked about how they're going to do the air raid. And they got Sawyer Robinson back at quarterback, and they get the DeQuan Finn, who was the MAC Player of the Year for Toledo, 3-year starter. But Aranda is not ready to name a quarterback. He's done that in the past at this point a couple of times, but he wants it to continue into training camp. What's your read on it?
I don't think that to me, when they made that decision a couple of years ago, 3 years ago, with Gary Bohannon after he had they won the Big 12, won the Sugar Bowl, beat Ole Miss. I think he did that for the benefit of Gary Bohannon, to give him the opportunity to find another place, which he did. Unfortunately, got hurt at USF. Now he's at BYU. I think DeQuan Finn has a lot of the intangibles you like. I also think DeQuan Finn struggles giving the ball to the wrong team. And when you're going to throw the ball as many times as they are, and a lot of them are going to be the dinks and the dunks and the crossing patterns and whatever else that Jake Spavital did, and he did a pretty good job at Cal last year. And you can't, if you're going to throw the ball a lot, and I think they're going to try to still focus on running the football like any team does. I don't know if you can just okay, this is our guy, and he's not going to avoid throwing a lot of interceptions. Sawyer Robertson has Mike Leach recruited him. The late Mike Leach recruited Sawyer Robertson, so that tells you what he thought about Sawyer Robertson, who would have probably been starting this year for Mississippi State, or obviously they went through some transition with their quarterback play, and then of course Leach no longer around. But so I have, if Mike Leach thinks Sawyer Robertson's good, then he's good. Then I think he's good. We don't get a chance to watch much during practice. In a lot of places you don't. I think Sawyer, when he played last year, I kind of liked, he's got a little bit of that gunslinger in him. He's a decent runner. DeQuan Finn obviously is somebody that can be a dual threat. I think they don't know. I don't think they know. And so I think that's why you make the decision. When I talked to Aranda after one of the practices, I might have even been after the spring game, I asked him, are you going to make a decision? He said, we're going to give it a couple of weeks. Well, they have R.J. Martinez, a walk-on, he's now at Texas State in San Marcos. So I think they probably have told the two guys that, it seems like they're going to let this thing run its course. And that means you don't have one. That doesn't mean that both of them aren't very good. It's just that means you don't have your alpha. Maybe that's good to stretch the competition as far and deep as you possibly can. I honestly can't tell you right now who's going to be the starter. I also know this. DeQuan Finn didn't come in from Toledo and probably got a pretty good NIL deal to sit the bench. So I don't know what Spavital, I haven't been able to get a feel of exactly what they're going to do, but I don't think they now know who their guy is.
How much NIL does Baylor have? How much are they putting resources into this, and how much do they prioritize basketball, which has been a more consistent winner?
Well, in basketball, they were ahead of the curve, and Scott Drew, from those around the program, I don't think Baylor has ever lost a player because they weren't in men's basketball prepared to compete NIL. Now, another young man may still pick somebody else, but it's not going to be because Baylor men's basketball is not in a really good place when it comes to NIL. I did see this. I thought it was funny. When Jeremy Roach rumors began that he was going to transfer to Baylor from Duke, somebody, again, some keyboard warrior threw out there. He goes, I heard he got $1.3 million. And I thought it was hilarious because Jeremy Roach goes, I wish, but yeah, he's coming to Baylor. They just got the Norshad Omier from Miami. From all indications, from me talking to people around his camp and elsewhere, this was not like who was going to be the highest bidder. This was who's going to be what's the best fit for him to have a chance to win. And he could have gone to a couple of places. Could have gone to St. John's and played for Pitino, but felt like Baylor was in a better place. And Baylor needed him because they need that kind of a big, good athlete inside type presence. So football has been behind, but they now are in a much better position. They were probably, and I know that Mack Rhodes, the AD, and a couple of others kind of disagree with me here, but I think Baylor was probably a year and a half, almost 2 years, really behind the eight, kind of like behind and grabbing onto NIL. And I'll give them credit because they were trying to do it right because nobody really knew the rules. Well, that means you probably didn't have any rules. And now we know that, my God, it's like an open season. It's like even better than being a free agent in the NFL in some cases. So they've caught up. I asked somebody within the NIL collective at Baylor About 2 weekends ago, guys, they had 3 players who visited, 3 transfer players who visited, and they got all 3 of them to commit. And I asked how much of that was NIL, and they said, well, it wasn't like throw a suitcase at them. He goes, but we were prepared and we were comfortable with what we had, and we felt like it would be competitive. And so they had 3 guys show up, and I think that's part of it. I think also playing defense for Dave Aranda and Gary Patterson as an analyst is probably a pretty good deal for a player too. Football is now caught up. I don't think they're going to go out and compete with some of the alphas when it comes to players, but they're in a position now from who they are that they can play that game. I think for about a year and a half, I think they were more scrambling, trying to figure out what they could do, trying to do it right, and it probably caught up to them and bit them. And one of the other things, after that, they were really good. I mean, they finished 5th in the country in 2021 with that team. And I don't know if I told you this last year, but they didn't go to the portal much. They really didn't go to the portal much. And I think they should have taken advantage of it at that time because they were red hot, and they were coming off a hell of a team. Some guys got drafted. And Aranda wanted to give the younger players a chance to, take the next step, like you wish you did back in the old days, like young kids, they get a chance. Other guys go graduate out of eligibility to go to the NFL, next man up. And I think that really hurt them and probably has cost them the last couple of years because they did not refill the cupboard, and they should have taken advantage of how red hot they were at the time.
Yeah, I know they got 6 transfers in January, and then Aranda's talking about adding some transfers here as far as the defensive and offensive lines. It makes sense. We'll see what happens in the coming weeks. You talk about the ability and the desire to run the ball. You look at the throw game that they might have. Receivers, they've got 8 who are either 4 or 5 year players. They return to 99% of their production, plus they got a couple of transfers. I think I one from Texas State, Hawkins, and then Bell's coming over from Nevada. And so they got Baldwin coming back, 71 receptions for about 1,200 yards in his last couple years. What is your level of confidence in them being able to have some big-time plays because every offense needs that?
The kid from Texas State's a guy that can beat you in a lot of different ways, Hawkins. He's got the ability to beat you, stretch you. Monterey Baldwin does that. He's already there. He's a local kid, played at Killeen High School. I actually played at Shoemaker High School in Killeen, about an hour southwest. But the Bells should be good. The kid from Arkansas, Keytron, really good player. Again, I don't get to watch much at all during the spring because they practice about the time we're doing our show. But I was at the spring. It wasn't a scrimmage. It was more of a practice. And I thought, just me, and I'm not an X's and O's, look at a talent scout guy. I've never, sometimes I thought certain guys were they're really good and they just don't do anything. But watching from where I watched, which was pretty much on the sideline, and I just kind of was always 20 yards ahead of the ball. Back in the days when I shot television, you always want to stay ahead of the ball. I thought they made some really, really very competitive 50-50 catches. All of them did. And I thought that was a nice sign. I think their tight end play, which, of course, they had so many tight ends because they read that wide zone, I think they got a couple of guys that can be really pretty good that might end up being kind of in that slot that are more slot/H back than pure tight ends that can make some plays, too. A couple of them are pretty young. So I do think they can do that. Whoever plays quarterback, they have Richard Reese, who they, for whatever reason, got away from him, and then he runs 2 kickoffs for touchdowns back against West Virginia. He's locked in. He was a fantastic player, all Big 12 freshman player, freshman All-American player coming out of Belleville High School. Dominic Richardson, they got a couple of Pendergrass, who's kind of just a grinder. It just comes down to, I don't know if they have enough people to protect the quarterback. I don't know if they have enough people up front. And there was a thought or two that they might lose somebody or two in the transfer portal after they did their spring, wrapped up their spring, and they've been able to keep those guys. They have to keep them because they don't have enough of them in the first place. So they had a couple of transfers come in who have some meat on the bones and also experience. they still need another one or two, not just guys who can play offensive line, guys who could be a part of a 6, 7, 8-man rotation on the offensive line. So, again, the defensive line hurt with injuries. A couple of guys have been forced to retire. They did get the kid that came in from they got a Western Kentucky. Got a kid who can put pressure on the ball that came in. I'm just telling you, I don't know if they have enough big boys up front. Either one on the defensive line or two. I think they'll be really fast and quick, and they can make some plays on the back end of the defense around the edges. I don't know if they have anybody up front that really is going to be able to put pressure on the quarterback enough. And even more than that, dudes, alpha dogs up front that can stop the run.
Do they have someone in the athletic department who hates the coaching staff? Because you referenced this earlier, and David Locke, who hired me here a long time ago, he's doing jazz radio now. He went up to Seattle for a while, and they had an AD there who scheduled Air Force. And Rick Neuheisel was the coach a long time ago, and Neuheisel lost his mind. Why are we playing them? They do something different than everybody else. We can only get embarrassed. It doesn't help our defense grow. We have to derail everything we're doing and then go over here and do something really weird and then go back. If they're not big and up front, and if you've got a ton of doubt already in the program, it seems like losing that game, playing a weird offense, is the kind of thing that can demoralize a team that's trying to build itself back up. It seems like a dumb decision.
Well, it was one that was made. It wasn't like made in the last year. So they made.
Right.
Here's the thing. You're right about playing teams that run what Air Force or Navy and sometimes what Army, even if they've tweaked that a little bit. Here's the issue. Baylor, when they had those teams that put them on the map, from the years of RG3, what Art Browse was able to do, they won the Big 12 back-to-back. They had really a great run. But the problem is they didn't play anybody in non-conference. And early on, that was the idea of AD, Ian McCall, and Briles, because back then, guys, they had gone like a decade and a half without making a bowl game. Think about like 15, 16 years they did not make a bowl game. Well, they weren't good enough to get even sniff the 6. But so their idea was, let's build this thing up. Let's win the non-conference games, and they would obliterate most everybody they played, and they'd go 3-0, whatever it was. And then on top of that, then let's win 3 Big 12 games. Well, early on, that was kind of like, didn't know if you could. And they went 7-6 in 2010. They stormed the field when they beat Kansas State to become bowl eligible, lost to Illinois in the bowl game. Next year, RG3, they were fantastic and off to the races. But their non-conference schedule was trash. It was not very good. Yeah, they were able to win a lot of big games, start beating Texas somewhat consistently, Oklahoma too, at least a little bit, right? Never won much at Oklahoma State, started to compete and do that. But when Mac Rhodes arrived, the one thing they were going to start doing was playing a better non-conference schedule. They had Utah, as you guys know, was a non-conference game last year and was supposed to be again this year. But now it's kind of like a quasi. I don't even know I don't even know how to describe what it is this year. So then they have Auburn, they have Oregon, they have really good football programs now in their non-conference schedule, including Air Force. And so it was going to be Air Force and Utah non-conference, which would have been a hell of a nice non-conference schedule, even though, as you said, you're, bat blank crazy, because if you schedule someone like that, and especially third week of the year, you don't have time. You can run a few things during the summer, during August, whatever, but you got to get ready, especially who they were last year, to make sure you take care of your opener, which you should against Tarleton State, but then lost to Texas State last year. And then you got to go play college. We didn't have them in that, the rolling ball of razor blades? I mean, and coming off that game, and then you play Air Force with that option? Yeah, that's kind of a tough it's a tough thing. But I love it because maybe they'll win 2 of those 3 games. Who knows? Maybe they'll be better than we think. And they with Cam Rising back, Utah should be able to be kind of back who they have been too. So, but yeah, the schedule. Remember that game I'm going too long here. Remember the game about 3 or 4 years ago? Oklahoma hosted Army, and Army kept the ball for about 45 minutes and had Oklahoma like dead to rights, and somehow OU was able to win the game. And that was a pretty good Oklahoma team. I mean, that wasn't like the teams that were winning Big 12 titles, but they were pretty good. In fact, that might have been a team that won a Big 12 title that year, but they played Army. Well, we've seen the academies kind of service through who's been hot. When Coach Ken, he was fantastic. Navy had a great run. Air Force has always been pretty solid. And then, of course, Army has now been better. So, yeah, I remember Army once losing back in the day, like in the 70s to Nebraska, 77-7. Those days are gone because they could just annihilate you physically, had more people. Those days are gone. The academy schools are dangerous as hell.
He's David Smoak, host of 365 Sports in Waco, Texas. So, yeah, they got a lot of wide receivers, but they got major problems on the offensive and defensive line. And if you get off to a bad start, the whole thing could unravel. That's what I take away from Baylor football right now. That is where they sit.
Yeah, I agree. I think you really need to come out of those first 3 games because if you don't know who you are, they have to be better on defense because they weren't very good there either with Aranda and Gary Patterson. Patterson's is an analyst, but I think you go into the season, you go, okay, let's get these 6 wins. And if they were able to win one that you're not supposed to win, great, take advantage of it. But I do think that if they get off to a really tough start, and I think if they do not get themselves in a bowl game position, then you're going to see probably a transition. And now that would be Art Briles, Jim Grobe, Matt Rule, Dave Aranda, and then who? And there's some people down here there's a couple of coaches down here I think that would be obvious choices. But, yeah, they've got to get themselves back at least above water.
Thank you, David. We appreciate it. We'll talk to you again.
You guys, anytime. Thank you so much.
David Smoak, host of 365 Sports in Waco, Texas. Coming up next, Jay Stevens, NHL insider for The Zone, with the next step, the next piece of the puzzle for our new hockey team. Stay with us. DJ and PK, it's 97.5 The Zone.
Accessing.
This is Hans Olsen and Scotty G.
The general manager of the Utah NHL team, Bill Armstrong. You want to take the right steps at the proper time to build this thing the right way. Obviously, talent's number one, but what are the intangibles you look for in a player?
We want to get to the playoffs by doing the right steps and playing the right way. And then we want our players to play that playoff style, taking the puck hard to the net, playing the right way. Physical, big, hockey sense team that has a touch of speed coming at you. We're not a perfectly built team right now, but we're getting there. And every year for the next 10 years, we're going to be adding good pieces every year out of the draft into our team. So they didn't buy an expansion team where you got 32, 33-year-old players coming in. You've got 23-year-old players, and they're exciting players to watch. And if we do this process right, we get a chance to be good for about 10 straight years.
Catch Hans and Scotty weekdays from noon to 3 on 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.
Make Mother's Day easy and get the best gift ever, a blanket or a robe from Minky Couture. Mom will love it. Shop online at minkycouture.com or at any Minky store. They'll even take care of the wrapping. Even better, save 50% using the promo code ZONE50. It's the best gift ever. Minky Couture. DJ, PK, and we're joined now by our NHL insider for the Zone, Jay Stevens. Jay, good morning.
Good morning, gentlemen. How are you?
Good. Strange situation for an interview. We were told there's news breaking in the morning. You have to have Jay on. What is happening, Jay? What's going on?
Yeah,
What's the story?
It's super exciting. So SEG has announced that they have put the Southtown shops, or the shops at Southtown, formerly known as the Southtown Mall, under contract. And they are going to build their permanent practice facility right there at the mall. It's going to be amazing. A big double sheet. I don't know if you've been to Vegas lately and seen what they've done, or Seattle and seen what they've done with their practice facility, but just these amazing, gorgeous facilities that also turn into these awesome rinks for old men like me and kids, and it's just going to be a good community area. It's very exciting.
Do you know how long it's going to take to get it done?
1 year. They plan on being in this building. So this upcoming season is going to be crazy, and they're going to have to find a different place to practice, which I kind of think I know where they've got that narrowed down to as well. But then they'll by the 25-26 season, this building will be up and running, and we'll be playing hockey there. And that's where their business offices are going to be, and it's just going to be awesome.
Okay, so I could be a little off on these numbers, but I think there's like 9 locations for rinks, but 13 rinks total in the state. And from what I've heard, they're basically booked out from like 5 in the morning till 11 at night. So you're saying they're going to build a double sheet here, which they have in 3 or 4 other locations around the state, and that the team will only have them reserved like 4 hours a day, and then the public, whether it's youth hockey, figure skating, rec time, adult league, whatever, there'll be something there the rest of the day?
Yeah, yep. That's how these rinks run. And for guys like us, it's great to have another place to play because, like you said, every time we build a rink, it's booked, and then it just grows. So, and this will not be government owned, and they're going to try to do the grow hockey programs there. So you're going to see they're going to have equipment there for kids to rent or that they can loan. And you're just going to see a ton of hockey. And then you're going to see tournaments, too. So people will come in, and they'll pay to stay in those hotels in Sandy, and they'll go shop at the mall and spend money in Sandy from all over the place. So, yeah, it's going to be a really cool facility.
That's a big stretch of property right there. Do you know exactly where it's going?
I don't know exactly where it's going. We're going to get some imaging later this week on where it's going to go. I know they've got their big presentation tomorrow where they're going to reveal their revitalization or, how they're going to revitalize downtown Salt Lake. They're going to show all that tomorrow night. And then I think later in the week, we'll see the practice rink. But from what I understand, they're not really going to tear anything else down that's there. They're going to kind of build into it and kind of be the anchor tenant for the shops there.
Right.
Okay, that was my next question, because there is a lot of asphalt and a lot of parking space all around there. So they could do that, or, if they got vacancies, they can rip some stuff out, but I guess that's not where they're going.
The only thing I care about is they don't mess with Texas Roadhouse.
You and me both. Look, I'm going to go and I'm going to play hockey there every day at 1 o'clock. This is my retirement plan now. I'm going to go there every day, play hockey at 1 o'clock, and then either hit Via or Texas Roadhouse right there.
Exactly.
It's going to be amazing.
Yeah.
Dream come true.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I mean, those are the 2 places that I frequent the most over there. And I don't want – I should have added the other one, yeah. I don't want them messy, but there's plenty of room all around it, you know what I mean? And they should be able to handle it. And there's a lot of stuff going on all in that area. So it really will add to the area to make it even a bigger and better attraction, I would think.
Yeah, I think so, too. And if you look, sometimes that area gets – if you go to any other exit, if you go to 90th or if you go to 123, those are horrible exits on the freeway. But 106 is set kind of just perfect. Northbound leads right into the parking lot.
It does, yeah.
And I mean, it's ideal for just, hockey moms that want to come and drop their kids off and hit the mall and shop, or even just walk the mall. My grandpa's 94. He walks that mall every day. And it's just it's just perfect. It's got so much asphalt, like you said. It's a perfect place for a rink.
I don't want to get too deep into this, but when PK and I have remotes or games or practices, we have to go to Utah County. That parking lot is the go-to meeting place. Leave one car there and minimize the traffic.
Nope. No, that's the same. I think you've seen a lot of times you'll see a bunch of fire engines and stuff there because we do the same thing. We'll meet there and leave equipment there and then go do our training elsewhere.
Yeah.
How much do you think a first-class practice facility could help the franchise in terms of attracting and keeping players and all that type of thing?
Look, everything they've done so far is just going to blow players' minds as far as attracting people. First, hockey players love Utah. This is the climate they're used to. This is the atmosphere they look for a lot. And then to know that your owner immediately turns around and drops, after dropping $1.2 billion on the team, immediately turns around and drops another $25 to $40 million on a state-of-the-art practice facility. I mean, and it says the press release even says it's going to have like a gourmet kitchen in there for the players, and if you're an NHL player looking at it, you're like, yeah, that's where I want to be because I know I'm going to get my skate in. I'm going to have all my physical training. All of it's going to be right there in the building, and yeah, that definitely goes into the factor of whether or not you play for Utah if you're a free agent. Nobody else has a choice. We draft you, you're coming. But But like I said, hockey players love Utah. A lot of them live here in the off season anyway.
Jay Stevens joined us, NHL insider for The Zone. I'm curious because, we know the Ryan Smith story. He's told it here, and he grew up playing junior jazz. So you could see where you'd want something like that with the hockey team, except there's no ice time. So are there any plans, whether it's SEG or somebody else down the road, to build more rinks? I mean, with an NHL team here, if the sport gets more popular, you just see more pressure on the rinks. I can't really visualize 2 a.m. leagues. So is someone going to build something, or is there just no plan and everyone's wondering how that's going to work out?
There's definitely a plan. The first time I sat down and talked with Ryan, he knew right away the problem was lack of ice time. And his goal was, he talked about 70,000 junior jazz players. And he told me, he said, look, I know you're going to laugh at this, but I want Utah to be as big a hockey market as Minnesota. And I said, that's going to take a lot of rinks. And he said, yeah, but if they're strategically placed, we can do this. So I don't think it's far-fetched to say that, St. George, Saratoga Springs, Harriman, areas like this where you're seeing a real population growth with a lot of kids, they're going to look at places like that to also put a rink. And you're just going to see hockey boom, because every time you build it, it fills up.
Well, that's what happened after the 2002 Olympics. I mean, they built multiple rinks. I know Provo and Ogden and Kearns all got new rinks, and I think Kearns is 2 sheets, but they were all full right away. So I expect the same thing. There's more people here now, so.
Yeah, a lot more people. And for somebody like me, the Smith Group's asking for the tax thing or whatever tomorrow night, and a lot of people are complaining about it. But for people like me or hockey players or parents, you say like, it's a small 0.5 tax percent increase or whatever. But the length of impact those Olympic rinks have had on hockey in Utah has got us to where we are now. So that was kind of a headache then, but you see all the benefits we've had up until now. And if you put more rinks here now, if Smith Entertainment Group keeps doing what they're doing right now, we are going to be as big as Minnesota. Like, hockey's just going to blow up here, and you're going to see rinks everywhere, and they're going to fill up, and everybody's going to be happy about it.
Jay, thanks a lot. We appreciate the info. Thanks for joining us.
Thanks, guys. Appreciate it. See you on the ice.
Jay Stevens, NHL insider for The Zone.
So you're talking 2 sheets?
Nice.
Because I don't give 2 sheets.
I know you don't. Pronounce it carefully.
I'm good.
When we come back, your feedback.
How many
next.
sheets you want on your bed?
Stop.
How many sheets on my bed?
2.
I'm mad.
When we come back, your feedback next. Stay with us.
And it's all over almost here.
Don't go nowhere.
DJ and PK, time for your feedback. Donovan Mitchell's team advances to the second round of the NBA playoffs. Are you happy, glad, or sad? Invictus, as expected. Second round exit. Let's see what he does next year on his opt-out year, if Cleveland can keep him and improve or not. I mean, you got to admit, when you saw the Orlando matchup, you thought Cleveland's favored to win this. They should.
Yeah, but it's 4-5, though.
And it ended up being a long series.
So there's not obviously much difference.
But you had the playoff experience, which so often matters, and I think it mattered in the second half of Game 7.
I'm surprised it went 7.
Thought it would be 6?
I was more confident in them. I thought maybe even 5. Yeah.
Because it was a 4-5. So that's why I thought better chance for a longer series. But I just thought Cleveland's experience,
which is why I thought maybe 5
would matter. And
I thought that they would get a game on the road. That's disappointing to me.
If they'd split the 2 down there and protected the home court, that does get you out in 5.
Right. And so if I'm them, I'm a little alarmed that they couldn't find a way to win in Orlando. But none of that matters now.
LT says, I'm happy for him. I believe the playoffs this year are indicative of where the problem was. Rudy and Donovan and Mike all found success, and Atlanta lost the play-in. Blame it on Quinn.
Snyder, huh?
Yeah.
I thought he was the greatest, man.
Well,
I heard for 5 years or so. My gosh, he was so awesome.
LT's not buying it.
I never bought it either. I thought he was okay, but I didn't think he was some genius that he was made out to be.
I just think it comes down to the players so often, and the 2 star players did not get along. And Donovan made it clear he wanted out. And management decided, well, better sooner than later, which, with everything we know about leverage, better sooner than later is the right decision.
Flexibility, man. That's what they wanted. Now they got it. Now do something with it. You can be Gumby and be as flexible as you want, but you better find ways to get your team better.
Wizardfish 22, I'm happy for Don. I'm sad for the Jazz because we have their picks and we want them to implode.
Yeah, but I don't think they were going to implode in the immediacy, though. It was going to be down the road.
The later picks are the more valuable picks.
Yeah.
In both cases, both in the Cleveland deal and the Minnesota trade.
So this is going as anticipated. Because I thought once Mitchell went to Cleveland with the roster they already had, they ought to be able to get out of the first round. That's no surprise here.
They got a big front line. And they got him.
And you got a big TV.
Nice.
And you got you. What a win in hand. 36-24-36.
Aggie fan Dan at USU, the right blue. Donovan wore a Sam Merrill jersey to the three-point contest. Even he knows whose team it is. No, okay.
Sam Merrill's team?
Sam Merrill's
nice.
team. 11 minutes off the bench. It's my team. My supporting cast. Not out here to play 15 minutes and be exhausted. He did his thing. He got his 11 minutes yesterday. He came in, hit both his threes, hit his free throws. Hey, they won while he was on the court. He actually helped turn the momentum of the game just before halftime.
And he's in the NBA drawing NBA money.
Bingo!
Good for him.
And off that performance, that earns him another year. Keep it going.
Oh, yeah. He might be 2-3 years down with this same team even. Might not have to be because he's bounced around a little bit.
Yeah, but there's no reason to think. I mean, he looks like he fits, right? And he doesn't get a big role, but he comes in. He's ready to play when he steps on the court, hits a couple shots.
When his number's called, he's ready.
There you go.
Jeez, nice cliche.
It is a cliche, but it's true. I can't give you 5 minutes to warm up, dude. You got to go out there and play. It's the NBA playoffs. It's Game 7.
Give me 5 good minutes.
Karen, I don't care. Once the Jazz are out of the playoffs, I don't watch anymore.
Oh, Karen.
Don't be such a Karen. But you believe that. I mean, you're just making fun right now. You believe that a lot of Jazz fans are in this for the Jazz, not for the NBA.
I don't know what percentage, but there's certainly
a lot.
I don't know that there's a lot. I can't say that. That you have zero interest whatsoever. I find that hard to believe. But that's coming. You can only come from your perspective. I grew up a basketball fan. I mean, I watch Knick games, every Knick game I watch, but I was never a huge live-or-die Knick fan, but yet I watched them all.
Right, but there were plenty of people watching NBA playoff games.
That's what I'm saying.
Right.
That's my perspective.
But I think Jazz ratings, I don't know what the numbers are, but I wouldn't be surprised if ratings for Jazz games were 3 or 4 times higher than for an average NBA game.
Oh, I understand
there's way
that.
more Jazz fans than are NBA fans. But there's still plenty of NBA fans, and they watch the games. They'll make their money.
I should have been a big-time Knick fan, man. They won 2 titles when I was there.
Yeah, I don't understand anything about
stupid.
I don't understand anything about your fandom or lack thereof. It really makes no sense to me.
I just enjoyed the games.
You can do both.
I did. But if they lost, it just, okay. But it's the same thing if they won. I should have been celebrating wildly in the streets of Manhattan in 1973.
You up on like the 47th floor throwing ticker tape.
And I went to one of the finals. I'm a youngster. I'm way young. And I went to the finals in 1973.
And you have no emotional attachment.
But I was jacked to go. I was big time jacked because I knew the mayor and the mayor's son. They took me.
2 things. A, it's weird. B, it's probably healthier. I mean, realistically, enjoy the games for what they are. Have a good time.
I did.
Why do you care if a bunch of strangers lose to a bunch of strangers? I mean, why does that matter?
Clyde Frazier was not a stranger. He was my guy.
He's not your guy. He doesn't know your name.
I loved him.
He walked by without blinking. That should have pulled you into the fandom because that's a normal thing for a kid to do.
It did pull me into the fandom.
But not Knick fandom. Just NBA fandom.
Not exclusively Knick fandom. No. I told you, the mayor's son, he wants to run around the arena. I ain't running around the arena. I'm sitting here watching his game. You can run around the arena.
Oh, man. All right, DJ and PK, it's 97.5 The Zone. We are all done. Jake and Ben are next, right here on The Zone.